Hey friends, welcome to Shigaraki. So today we are going to see what if Deku inherited the Sage of Six Paths, power. So before we start, check out my Patreon page for 18+ exclusive mature content. We will now proceed to the video. All men are not created equal. This was a truth that the boy Izuku Midoriya learned at the young age of 4. Izuku was a small boy with curly green hair with black highlights and emerald green eyes. He was a young boy who loved heroes, and the idea of saving others. However, the world he lived in was not kind to him, nor others like him. You see, Izuku was quirkless. Those that were quirkless were treated as trash or useless. But this story is not about that. This story is about how Izuku becomes the greatest hero in the world. This is about the Sage of Six Paths, Deku. But first, let's go back to follow the life, or rather the afterlife, of the original Sage of Six Paths. Thousands of years ago, Hagoromo had just left his final message for Naruto and Sasuke as he faded away from the world, preparing himself to finally disappear. However, what he was not expecting was to still be able to bear witness to the world around him after he faded from the physical realm. "What is going on?" asked Hagoromo, confused. "I should have disappeared now that my mother is finally sealed for good, so why am I still conscious?" As Hagoromo was thinking over this strange turn of events, he saw that he could still listen into the world and watch its events play out. Said Hagoromo, thinking about what he had been doing before and the difference now. "Perhaps since I no longer need to watch over my son's reincarnations and beware my mother, the world has left me to watch over from just outside reality." "Not quite," said a voice from behind Hagoromo. Hagoromo quickly turned around, and came face to face with the Death God. "I have left you in this world for another reason." "Death God," said Hagoromo, shocked by his appearance and respectful to his identity. "Apologies, but I do not understand what you mean. Why must I stay here when my job is done?" "Because you will be needed in the future, and to take you out of time would cause your soul to be lost for good. So here you stay. I ask that you watch over this world until the day comes that it needs your help once again." "And what would that need include?" asked Hagoromo, curious. "You will need to pass your power to another, and if you deem worthy, the power of the Biju." "Pass on my power as well as the Biju's. But if I were to do that, then the 10 tails would return." "Not quite. Look at Naruto. He holds the chakra of all 9 Biju, and yet the 10 tails does not exist in him. I believe that the 10 tails that you know will not exist unless the Biju are forced together again. If they are with you, they will not go crazy. Likewise, if they all willingly join together and you help the process, they likely will create a new conscience. One that will have the power of the 10 tails but the mind of you and the Biju combined." "So you want me to create someone as strong if not stronger than myself. But why? For what reason will that much power be needed again?" "Because at that time a great threat will bear down on the world. However, I am not forcing you to complete this task. I only ask that you look for someone worthy. And I mean by you and the Biju. You all must agree that they are worthy of the power. It is not set in stone. I will contact you again when the person I believe worthy appears." "I see, so it is my and the Biju's choice to give our powers," said Hagoromo, understanding. "Very well, I will do as you ask. I will watch the events of the world play out and wait until we meet again. Then I bid you farewell for now, Hagoromo. I hope watching the world change will help your choice in the end," said the Death God as he disappeared, leaving Hagoromo alone once again. And so Hagoromo's millennia of observation began. He watched as Naruto and Sasuke changed the world. He watched the world improve more and more, with the 5 nations growing closer and closer. After close to 1,000 years, the first major change came to pass. Chakra started getting used less and less. Hagoromo watched as while the world grew and time passed, chakra became used to fight less and less, thus causing it to eventually fall off the wayside. After about another 200 years, chakra was no longer used at all. It was at this time that the Biju returned to him. Without chakra being used and with Hagoromo still existing, the Biju slowly lost their immense power as it returned to the earth and to Hagoromo. Eventually the Biju simply ceased to exist in the physical realm, joining Hagoromo in his observations. To say they were surprised to see their father and creator again would be an understatement. However, their joy quickly overcame their surprise, and that joy turned to shock as they learned of why he still remained. And thus the 9 Biju joined him in observing the world. Another few hundred years passed and the world faced its next big change. The nations split apart, changing the terrain and finalizing the end of the 5 nations. Hagoromo and the Biju thus began watching the world return to a selfish and battle-filled one. They watched as over the next few thousand years humanity fought amongst themselves over and over again. "I do not understand," said Kuruma, drawing the attention of the others as they observed a war between two sides of the same country. Naruto was able to remove hatred from the world, and it was peaceful. So why does the world now face the same problems once again? Because humanity is greedy by nature, said Hagoromo sadly. It is in our nature to wish for more. To make our lives better and to make it easier for our kin. But surely there should be another like Naruto somewhere, said Son Goku. Maybe so, said Gyuki, but the world regressed millennia ago, remember? It may very well take a few more 100 years or another millennia for someone to be able to truly have the same mindset as Naruto. Sadly this is the truth, said Hagoromo. And we must continue to wait for said someone to appear so we can help them to improve the world once again. Where is the death god? Asked Kuruma, angered by the fact that so much time has passed and so much age. A turd has been passed around without him showing himself. We have borne witness to such hatred and bloodshed over such a long amount of time. Surely we have reached the time which he spoke of. I do not know where the death god resides, answered Hagoromo. But I know that the time has not yet arrived. We must wait a bit longer to meet the one death believes worthy. I do have some hesitation on that, said Matabi. We have borne witness to bloodshed on par to the ninja wars over control of us. Who is to say that when we return this person won't use our power like the rest will? We don't know that, answered Hagoromo. Which is why the death god said we must all agree on passing on our powers. The world will always progress, with or without our powers. It will all be honest to decide if the chosen one is truly worthy. With how we have seen the humans progress over time, I seriously doubt there will be someone worthy enough, said Kuruma. We shared a little of our power with Naruto, and in the end it changed. Nothing. Quote, we will have to wait and see, replied Hagoromo. After another 400 years the next big change in the world happened. Hagoromo and the Biju saw a baby glow. What? Yelled Kuruma in shock. That should not be possible. That infant is glowing. Is it chakra? No, said Hagoromo, also shocked. That baby has not used chakra, nor does he or anyone else in He world currently have enough to do anything close to that. Hagoromo and the Biju watched the world change as more and more people were born with special powers that they learned were called quirks. They saw the world fall into chaos. As they watched quirks progress, they saw two people in particular that they knew would be an issue. One had a quirk that let him take and give other people's quirks, and his younger brother, who the elder gave a stockpiling quirk that merged with his own. The group watched as the elder brother fell to evil and became a ruler, while the younger believed in just ice and passed his quirk on to another to try to fight his elder brother. Oh great, said Kuruma, whose frustration was growing ever larger. Now we have another Madara and Hashirama. This is exactly what we needed. Is that younger one the person Death spoke of? Asked Yuki, curious. He wholeheartedly believes in justice and wants to bring an end to the dark world they live in. No, he is not the one, answered Hagoromo. The death god said that he would appear again when the one he spoke of was born, and this man is not a newborn. And so they continued to observe as another couple hundred years passed. They saw the world get ever darker, and watched as the now named All for One fought against the successors of his younger brother's power, now named One for All. They observed 7 gene rations of users wield One for All and watched as 6 of them fought and died against All for One. Then they saw the 7th user meet the 8th user, and watched as the man used the power to bring about an era of peace in the world. It looks like the world has finally reached a similar point as after the Third Great Ninja War, said Yuki. Perhaps we are finally closing in on the time that the death god spoke of. Perhaps, said Hagoromo, interested in the similarities of how the world was now progressing again. Let us observe how this world continues to grow. And so they observed for a few more years until the time finally arrived. The death god appeared in front of the group after 7,853 years of waiting. And so the time has come, said the Death God. First I must thank you for waiting as long as you did. And apologize for not being able to speed things up at all. Quote, "It has indeed been a long time," said Hagoromo. "And we have borne witness to much bloodshed and change. However, I can out that this knowledge will help us with our decision in the near future." "Indeed it will," spoke the 9 Biju in agreement, glad that the time has finally arrived. "And I am glad that that has come to pass. And I look forward to the decision that you all make," said the Death God. "So," started Hagoromo, "who is the one that you believe to be worthy of our combined power?" "He is a boy named Izuku Midoriya," said the Death God. "I ask that you observe his life carefully and watch how he grows. But first I must ask, what do you think of what the world has turned into?" Quote, "This world has little progression in the mental sense," answered Hagoromo. "And as these quirks have come to become a part of everyday life, the discrimination has seemed to switch sides." "Indeed it has," said the Death God. "I thank you for your answer. Now then, it is time for me to bring you to Izuku." Quote, the Death God then teleported Hagoromo and the Biju to a hospital in Japan, where the group saw a small baby with some green hair and emerald eyes crying in his mother's arms. His mother had similar green hair with black highlights as well as emerald green eyes. They saw a man standing next to the woman. He had black hair with auburn eyes and 4 freckles on each of his cheeks in the shape of diamonds. "That young baby is Izuku Midoriya," said the Death God. "Watch as he grows and I will appy one final time when it is time to make your choice. I look forward to your answer." Quote, as the Death God said this, he disappeared once again, leaving Hagoromo and the Biju to watch over the new family. "So this is it," said Hagoromo. "This is the child we have been waiting for. His chakra is interesting, and he has so much. He is truly an interesting child. It is unfortunate that chakra has been lost to the world for so long. But it will come back with this young boy if we choose to give him our power," said Shukaku. Kuruma scoffed at that statement, saying, "Maybe, but this world will change him just like it has all the rest. Even most of the so-called heroes of this time care more about themselves than the people they are supposed to be protecting. He will just be a disappointment like all the rest." "Maybe he will and maybe he won't," said Hagoromo. "We will just have to wait and see how he grows." And so they did just that. They watched for 4 years as they saw Izuku slowly grow up. They saw him become friends with a Bakugo, Katsuki, or as Izuku called him, Kachan, and watched as he grew obsessed with heroes, and one in specific, All Might. They watched as Izuku grew to love the idea of saving others. However, they were still skeptical about him as he was still too young for them to decide if he would stay as pure as he was. Then came the age of 4, and they watched as the children surrounding Izuku began gaining their quirks. They also watched as Izuku continued to not get his quirk, and started to realize how this was going to play out. "He isn't going to get a quirk, is he?" asked Matabi, sadly. "We shall see," answered Kuruma, now truly interested in how Izuku's life was going to play out. And see they did. They watched a doctor bluntly tell Izuku that he will never get a quirk. They then proceeded to watch Izuku break down in sadness. They watched as Izuku asked his mother, who they learned was named Inko, if he could still be a hero, and her to then simply just hug and apologize to him. "That is not the answer he needed," said Gyuki, slightly angered by how poorly Inko handled the situation. They then proceeded to watch as Izuku's life turned sour. They watched as his father, who they learned was named Hisashi, but they didn't pay him much mind as he was always gone, divorced Inko for birthing a quirkless freak, as he called Izuku. They watched as Izuku's friend, classmates, and teachers all turned on him and started bullying him and treating him as a waste of space. "This seems far too familiar," said Kuruma, remembering how Naruto was aided simply because he was Kuruma's Jinchuriki. "They are all treating him differently, and treating him like some useless freak," said Shukaku, remembering how people treated Gaara just for being Shukaku's Jinchuriki. "Kuruma," said Hagoromo, drawing the Biju's attention. "Can you tell me what his emotions are right now?" Kuruma turned to look into Izuku, and was surprised by what he saw. "He has no hatred for them," said Kuruma, surprising the other Biju. "He doesn't have a single shred of anger towards them. Just sadness and confusion at why he is suddenly being treated so differently." Then Naruto felt hatred for the people that treated him differently, but this child has no anger in him whatsoever. I see, said Hagoromo, thinking about what Kuruma just said. I am becoming more intrigued by this young man. And I think that goes for all of you as well, he said, receiving a nod from all 9 Biju. Let us continue to watch him, said Son Goku. And they continued to watch as over the years Izuku continued to be bullied. They watched as he was beaten over and over by his friend-turned-tormentor, Bakugo. They stopped referring to him in a friendly manner when he turned on Izuku. They watched as Izuku never told on Bakugo, and instead hid his injuries. What surprised them even more was that he never gained any hatred or anger towards anyone. He never got angry at Bakugo for beating him. Never hated the other students and teachers for doing nothing to interfere. He simply forgave everyone and grew to admire heroes more and more. He started taking notes on heroes, filling notebook after notebook with notes and details. His analysis skills grew at an exponential rate, shocking Hagoromo and the Biju even more that he was working towards his goal even without what everyone else had. I don't understand this boy, said Kuruma. It took Naruto years to get past his anger and hatred, yet this boy seems to refuse to get angry or hate in the first place. Indeed, said Hagoromo. This boy seems to be so pure he forgives anything that happens. The sad part is that he is slowly growing to believe the claims. They continued to watch as Izuku continued to take notes on heroes and even some villains, improving his analysis to even greater heights. They watched as he worked harder than anyone else to get the best grades he could, as well as working out to keep his body in shape and ready for anything. The group was slowly growing more and more impressed with Izuku's tenacity in following his dream to become a hero like All Might, which after his fight with All For One the group was honestly shocked he was still alive. I'll admit, said Kuruma, surprised and intrigued with Izuku. Izuku is like nothing we've ever seen. He is like Naruto, but so much purer. I am honestly starting to believe that he is incapable of hatred for anyone. I would have to agree with Kuruma, said Yuki. Izuku is the kindest person I have ever seen, and as we all know we have seen many people. I agree, said Hagoromo. He is indeed kind, and is trying to achieve his goal despite lacking so much. I honestly believe that he is worthy of our power, but the Death God has yet to appear before us and ask. So we shall continue observing and see what happens. And so they continued to watch until Izuku was 14. That is when the fateful day arrived. They watched as Izuku was once again ridiculed at school for his quirklessness. Then they heard Bakugo say something that they would never forget. If you want a quirk so badly, said Bakugo, hope you get a quirk in your next life and take a swan dive off the roof. This singular line shocked the group to their cores. They could not believe that he would go so far as to bait Izuku into suicide. This brat is insane, said Kuruma, angered immensely at Bakugo. He honestly thinks it's okay to tell someone to kill himself. Indeed, said Hagoromo. Unfortunately we already know that nothing will be done to him. However, should we give our powers to Izuku, we will do all we can to help him push past Bakugo and show him what true power is like. Indeed we will, said Kuruma. But the Death God still has yet to show himself. So let's see what Izuku does now. They all watched as Izuku walked home, avoiding the road that he had watched to fight it in the morning. They heard Izuku muttering that he couldn't believe Bakugo would say what he did. And not quite as surprised anymore when Izuku again held no hatred for Bakugo. This kid really is something else, said Kuruma, getting nods from the others. Suddenly, they saw a mass of sludge come out of the sewer and grab Izuku, choking him as he tried to take his body. The group began to panic, believing that Izuku was going to die. Suddenly they heard someone yell. And as they turned they saw All Might himself punch the sludge villain, scattering him as Izuku fainted from lack of oxygen. Well, this is a surprise, said Hagoromo, honestly surprised to see the symbol of peace here. Let us see how this plays out. They watched as All Might proceeded to slap Izuku awake, say sorry and jump away with Izuku clinging to his leg. They watched the conversation that Izuku and All Might had about his shrunken form, then froze when they heard his question to Izuku's question. No, you can't become a hero without a quirk, said All Might. For the first time ever they saw true despair on Izuku's face. That hypocrite, growled Kuruma angrily, getting nods from the other Biju who felt the same way. He was quirkless too before he got one for all. And he has the nerve to say it's impossible. Izuku is smarter than he is now, and more fit than he was at his age. He would already make a great hero. Indeed he would, agreed Hagoromo, worried for Izuku. Let's see how Izuku handles having his last light tell him it's impossible. They watched Izuku looking shocked and muttering to himself, before saying, much to the shock and joy of the group, even All Might believes it's impossible. But that doesn't matter. That just means he's like everyone else, and I didn't change my mind after years of hearing it from them. Just one more person to prove myself to. This statement silenced Hagoromo and the Biju completely. Finally, Kuruma said, Izuku is far too pure. He would surely use our power for the benefit of others. Then are we all in agreement? Asked Hagoromo, getting nods from the Biju. Then we know what we will be telling the death god when he arrives. Suddenly, they heard an explosion in the distance and saw smoke rising. They quickly followed Izuku as he ran down the building and towards the explosion, finding a crowd of people in his way. After pushing his way through, he saw that it was the sludge villain from before. Then he saw who was in the sludge, Bakugo. The group then bore witness to the final nail in the coffin of their resolve. They saw Izuku run towards the sludge villain without hesitation. They watched as he quickly analyzed the situation, throwing his bag to blind the sludge and used his strength to pull Bakugo out of it. He then quickly ran back to the heroes before the sludge villain could react, leaving him to the heroes who without Bakugo in the way were able to quickly subdue. He ran into danger, knowing what he was getting into, and still rushed forward and succeeded in saving Bakugo. He is selfless and willing to risk himself, even for someone like Bakugo, said Hagoromo. He was pleased with Izuku, and glad that it was Izuku who they were going to give their powers to. Suddenly, Ime froze around them as the death god appeared in front of them once more. So, said the death god, you have watched this boy grow and face many trials. You have seen how he reacts to those who look down on him and treated him poorly, and you have seen him get shot down by everyone he has ever met. And you have seen him bounce back from it all. So I ask you, do you believe him worthy of your powers? We do, answered Hagoromo with a nod, though wondering why time had been stopped for this conversation. Then we can proceed with you joining with him. He will become a Jinchuriki, for both the 9 Biju's new 10 tails and yourself, Hagoromo. Wait, me as well? Asked Hagoromo, surprised. Why me as well? Well, to be more specific, your knowledge and power. He needs your knowledge to understand all that he has. Though he will still have to train to use his new powers to his full potential. Though given his constant training, he can likely already use at least Chunin-level jutsus, as well as the Rinne Sharingan. I see, said Hagoromo, understanding. So then what will happen to me after you have sealed the Biju into him and given him my powers and knowledge? You can choose. With Izuku sharing your powers and having the new 10 tails inside him, he could very well bring you into the physical world once he is strong enough, but you would have to wait and watch alone again. The other option is to finally pass on, letting yourself finally rest after your many years. What will you choose? Hagoromo was deep in thought. On the one hand, he could finally get the resting place he wanted thousands of years ago. But on the other hand, he could watch Izuku grow, helping him grow when he was able to bring him into reality. Finally he made his decision, saying, I would like to stay and observe him grow. I have watched Izuku grow from a baby to the stunning young man he is now. I would like to at least watch him grow into the great hero I know he will become. Then so it shall be. Now I bet you are wondering why I stopped time for this conversation. It was because if I hadn't, Izuku would now be talking to All Might once again, going down a different path. But now you have agreed to give your powers, and so it is now needed to proceed. This procedure will put Izuku in a coma for a few weeks as he will need to adjust to the massive amount of power that he will be receiving. Hagoromo and the 9 Biju nodded in understanding. Hagoromo then turned to the Biju to say his goodbye. I know that you all will help Izuku become someone great, he started. You will all likely still have some individual conscience once you become the 10 tails, but will overall have one singular mind. I hope you all can get along well together. We will do our best. The Biju responded, saddened by the fact that they were being separated from their father and creator once more, while happy that they will be able to help Izuku become what he has always wanted to be. "Then let us proceed," said the Death God. They then spent the next few hours, though in the physical world not even a second passed, combining the minds of the Biju and Hagoromo's knowledge and power into one, creating a new tailed beast that they named Shiruborafu, or the Silver Wolf. Hagoromo and the Death God then proceeded to give Izuku the power of Shiru. After a total of 7 H's, they finally finished merging Shiru with Izuku. Once I unfreeze time, Izuku will fall into a coma, and will spend the next 3 to 5 weeks changing to allow him to use his powers. His chakra has already gotten a massive boost from simply merging them, so when it is completely done he will likely be able to perform most Jonin-level jutsus. With that, I wish you farewell for the final time. Quote, "Thank you for this chance to help someone who truly deserved the chance," said Hagoromo as the Death God disappeared and time resumed. Hagoromo then watched as Izuku immediately collapsed, his skin almost white in color. He watched as the heroes quickly called an ambulance to take Izuku to a hospital, and as he started following the vehicle as it drove away, he said one final sentence to Izuku, "I wish you luck in your endeavors, Izuku." 5 weeks later, third POV over Izuku. Izuku slowly opened his eyes, seeing a white roof above him. "Where am I?" thought Izuku, sitting up and looking around. He quickly noticed the heart monitor next to him in the hospital bed that he was sitting on. "Am I in the hospital? Why am I in the hospital?" thought Izuku. "Because you were in a coma for 5 weeks to adapt to our power," said a voice in Izuku's head, surprising the boy. "What? Who are you? Where are you?" yelped Izuku in surprise. "As for the who, I am Shiruborafu, but call me Shiru. As for where, I am inside of you," answered the now named Jin. "Inside me? Why are you inside me? And what did you mean by adapt to our powers?" asked Izuku to the voice, taking note that he was tacky. "Ing this much easier than he thought he would. I am inside you because you are my Jinchuriki," started Shiru. "And I meant that you have been given the power of me, the 10 Tails, and Hagoromo, the Sage of 6 Paths. You also have Hagoromo's knowledge to help you better understand how to use these powers." Quote, "Jinchuriki. What's that? And who is this Hagoromo?" As Izuku asked these questions, he looked down at himself and saw that his skin was white in color. "And what happened to my skin? It's white. You can find the answers to your questions within your own knowledge. Look inside yours. LF and I will help guide your mind to where Hagoromo's knowledge rests, so you will know where to look in the future." Quote, Izuku wasn't sure why, but he trusted what Shiru was saying. As Izuku looked inside himself, he felt what he could only describe as another mind taking hold of his own and guiding it to a large clump of knowledge that felt foreign yet somewhat familiar to Izuku. As Izuku looked through the pool of knowledge, he learned what a Jinchuriki was, why his skin was white, as well as the other changes that were caused to his body. He learned what chakra was and learned of the years that Hagoromo and the 9 Biju spent observing Izuku. "I see," said Izuku, understanding dawning on his face, and tears appearing in his eyes. "I thank your previous 9 Biju forms, and Hagoromo for gifting me your powers. And giving me the chance to fulfill my dreams. It is no problem, Izuku. Try to find a mirror to take a proper look at yourself." Quote, so Izuku went to the bathroom in his hospital room, and went straight to the mirror. What he saw surprised him and confused him at the same time. His hair had changed from green to white, though he noticed it kept the black highlights. Where he had emerald green eyes, he now had purple Rinne Sharingan, which was a large shock to him as he knew Hagoromo did not have the Rinne Sharingan. As he looked over his body he saw that his entire body was now white in color. And when he turned to look at his back he saw the distinctive 9 Tomo on his back in the 3x3 square with the sage symbol above them in the spot between his shoulders. However, what shocked him most was that he seemed to have a third eye on his forehead. But that was not what shocked him the most. He knew from looking at Hagoromo's knowledge that it should have been a red Rinne Sharingan. But it looked like a plain Rinnegan with an emerald coloring to it. "Shiru, why is my third eye green, and why is it not a Rinne Sharingan? Actually, why do I have the third eye in the first place? Hagoromo did not bear this eye, nor the Rinne Sharingan that I hold in my 2 other eyes. I do not know, Izuku." Perhaps you share blood with the Uchiha of old, or perhaps the current world has somehow affected how you took to the powers. We will have to learn as we go. However, I would suggest that you close your third eye for now, as we do not want to risk unsealing Kagaya. Quote, I understand. I look forward to learning from you, Shiro. As Izuku said this, he closed his eyes and spent a few minutes learning how to close his third eye. When he felt it close, he opened his other eyes and saw that his third had disappeared from his forehead without a trace. He couldn't even see the eyelid that covered it. I will place a seal over your third eye to help prevent it from accidentally opening on its own, said Shiro. I appreciate it, said Izuku. Soon he felt his connection to his third eye get cut off, and he smiled internally. Now I would suggest going back to the bed that you were in, said Shiro, gaining Izuku's attention and curiosity. I sense someone coming to your room, and it would seem odd to find you missing. Quote, I can agree with that, said Izuku, leaving the bathroom and making his way back to the bed. Shortly after, the only other door in the room opened and a woman walked in. She quickly stopped when she saw Izuku sitting in bed. You're awake? She asked quietly. You're awake? She quickly ran out of the room, and a few minutes later she came back with 3 other people. Izuku noticed another woman and a man in similar clothes to the first woman, and a man in a white lab coat. He assumed they were the other nurses and the doctor in charge of his stay. Ah, you're awake, young man, said the man in the coat. You gave us quite a scare. I'd like to ask you some questions if you wouldn't mind. Of course, answered Izuku. When he looked at the doctor, he noticed him flinch when they made eye contact. Interesting, thought Izuku. It would seem my eyes unsettled him. Good to know. Quote, yes, the Rinnegan can be a bit unsettling. I believe it is because of the color mixed with the rings, answered Shiro, surprising Izuku. Wait, you can hear my thoughts. Then why weren't we talking like this entire time? Asked Izuku. Because I didn't think it necessary, replied Shiro. Ahem, Izuku heard. He turned to find the doctor looking at him. I'm sorry, said Izuku, I was thinking to myself. What did you ask? I asked if you could tell me your name, repeated the doctor. Of course, my name is Izuku Midoriya. How old are you? 14. What do you remember last? I remember having just pulled a classmate out of a sludge villain, then watching the pros defeat said villain. The doctor nodded, then said, good. It seems there are no issues with your mentality and your memory seems to be fine. Now then, what can you tell us about your changes? Izuku looked puzzled for a moment before Shiro said, he is asking if you know anything about your new looks. You were registered as quirkless after all, so it would raise suspicions. Quote, then what do I say? Asked Izuku in worry. Let me appear, and I will explain. I will say that your quirk just manifested and you only know about me. Quote, I will leave it to you, said Izuku as he willed Shiro to appear. Suddenly, much to the shock of the doctor and the nurses, a small silver-white wolf-looking creature with 10 tails appeared on Izuku's shoulder. It surprised them even more when said creature spoke. Hello, I am Shirobarafu, and I am this boy's quirk, started Shiro, standing up. I want to tell you that this boy did not lie about his power in any way. He was simply unaware of me. I started to manifest during the day he saved his classmate from the sludge. Villain, you manifested, you say? Asked the doctor. You mean to say you didn't have any effect on the boy until that day? Indeed I did not, replied Shiro. My power was far too great for Izuku to handle before. As you can see that my power has greatly altered him. It is why he went into a coma when I started to manifest. He could finally handle my power, but the changes it would bring would need his body's full attention. And why is that? Because my, or rather now Izuku's power, is far greater than any quirk that has come before it. It is a mix of mutation, emitter, and transformation. What? But that is unheard of, yelled the doctor. Exactly, which is why it took such a long time to manifest and forced Izuku into a coma. The doctor sighed as he said, very well, but we will need to test him to see if what you say is true. We understand, though I would recommend that for the transformations you have a large open field, as they can get rather big, said Shiro, RP rising the doctor and nurses yet again. Very well, said the doctor, sighing. That is all for now. I will call your mother to inform her that you have woken up. You have been in a coma for 5 weeks, so you have missed a few things. We will talk about your quirk counseling and the tests at a later time. Thank you, said Izuku and Shiro together, with Izuku bowing to the doctor as he and the nurses left. That went well, said Shiro. Indeed it did, answered Izuku. But I don't think we are through the roughest part yet. Now I have to deal with my mother, who with my skin the way it is likely thought I was dying. That will indeed be something to see. After about 30 minutes of waiting, Izuku heard a commotion outside his door. Suddenly it was thrown open with a loud yell of, Izuku! Ming from his mother as she ran into the room and hugged her son. I'm okay, Mom, said Izuku hugging his mother. I just finally got my quirk. Izuku then proceeded to tell his mother the same thing he told the doctors. With the help of Shiro, who greatly surprised Inko when she saw him. He told her what he had, that his quirk was a mix of all 3 types, and apologized for making her worry. After a couple hours a new doctor came in asking if Izuku was well enough to complete some quirk tests. Izuku nodded in the affirmative and quickly changed into some clothes his mom had brought him and followed the doctor to a large room, where they proceeded to study Izuku's quirk and learn what he could do. Izuku first had Shiro explain everything that Izuku would be able to do, and what he was capable of doing right now. Izuku showed what chakra was, and used some Sharingan and Byakugan techniques to show the doctor what his eyes were capable of. He used the Byakugan to see the pressure points, and pressed a couple on the doctor to show what the effect was. He used the Sharingan to create an illusion, which freaked the doctor out a tad at how realistic the illusion was. He also created black flames, which he quickly extinguished when Shiro told him to. After a short explanation of what the flames were and that they never went out until they devoured whatever they were on or the user put them out. Finally, he showed a part of the Sharingan Susanoo, though Izuku could only create the ribcage at the moment. After showing the techniques of his eyes and the simple existence of chakra, Shiro told the doctor Izuku would need to train with to determine what he could do. They then went to a large field behind the hospital to have Izuku show his transformations. Jin guided Izuku to tell him how to activate the chakra cloak, which when Izuku learned how to use created a long white cloak with the same tomo and symbol as on his back on it. 8 black balls appeared behind Izuku, and then one quickly made its way to Izuku's hand. Then, much to the shock of everyone, a hole appeared in Izuku's hand as the black orb changed into a staff and made a point that went through the hole in Izuku's hand. Izuku! Yelled Inko in worry and shock. What happened to your hand? Are you okay? Shiro appeared again as he said, he is fine Mrs. Midoriya. This is something that happens with this transformation. Izuku then started to float, flying around while directing the black orbs, which Shiro said should be called Truth Seeker orbs, with his mind and making them change shape to whatever he wanted. Unbelievable, said the doctor, becoming more and more shocked by Izuku's capabilities. Young man, you have what is likely the most diverse quirk I have ever seen. There is still one last transformation, said Shiro, shocking the doctor even further. However, this one takes immense amounts of Izuku's chakra to maintain, so it won't last for very long. And how do you use this transformation? Asked the doctor, intrigued. Izuku and I must be in sync and willing to work together, answered Shiro. I see, then proceed please, said the doctor. Be careful, Izuku, yelled Inko, still worried over her son. Always. Mom, yelled back Izuku. You ready? Asked Izuku internally. Ready when you are, replied Shiro. Izuku suddenly started emitting a massive physical aura around himself. As he rose off the ground, a large see-through silver wolf took form around him. 10 tails took form behind him, each moving individually from each other. Finally the wolf stopped growing, leaving a 15-meter tall and close to 40-meter long see-through silver wolf with Izuku in its head. The doctor and Inko were speechless at what they were seeing. They had never seen anything like this, and the very idea of it was terrifying. The doctor felt sorry for anyone who came across Izuku in this form. After a couple minutes of moving around, which Izuku was finding semi-difficult with the now too small field, the wolf started disappearing and all that was left was an exhausted Izuku. Well, young man, started the doctor. I think it's safe to say that you have probably the most diverse and unique quirk in the world. Not quite, said Shiro from inside Izuku, which Izuku took note to ask about what he meant later. Now I only have one question left before I let you and your mom get home, continued the doctor. What do you want to call your quirk? Izuku stood with a hand to his chin thinking for a moment before nodding his head at his decision. I want to call my quirk the Six Paths, said Izuku. An interesting name, any specific reason? Asked the doctor, curious. It's just what felt right, answered Izuku. Meanwhile Shiro was grinning at Izuku while thinking, thank you for honoring Hagoromo and the 9 Biju, Izuku. You will make us proud. Quote. And so began the story of Deku, the Sage of Six Paths. It had been 2 weeks since Izuku woke up from the hospital. The past couple weeks had been somewhat hectic for Izuku, as he had needed to get some quirk counseling in, as well as having to convince his mom to let him take a test to graduate middle school early. Shiro had told Izuku that he would need as much time as he could get to learn how to use chakra better and learn some jutsus, and Izuku and Shiro agreed that Izuku already knew everything that his school could have taught him. He had still had to go to school for a few days until his test came though, and Izuku had to admit he was semi-disappointed in how that went. Flashback. The first thing he noticed when he went back to school was everyone not knowing who he was. This he understood, as he looked completely different than he did before, and no one would think that he had suddenly gotten a quirk. It was during class that things went south. When he entered the room and took his seat, he noticed everyone giving him curious glances, then quickly looking away when they made eye contact with Izuku. The teacher walked in a few minutes later, and started roll call. When they got to Izuku he stopped and looked at his desk, noticing Izuku sitting there. Surprised, the teacher asked, and who are you? I'm Midoriya, sir, answered Izuku, causing muttering and shock to spread through the classroom. I see, started the teacher, going from shock to frustration. And, pray tell, why did you I'd to dye your hair and put on such freaky contacts? I didn't dye my hair, and these aren't contacts, said Izuku. And my skin isn't just sun deprived either. I just finally have me quirk, and it altered my body a bit. That statement made the teacher angrier and the other kids laugh. Don't lie to me, Midoriya, said the teacher. You're quirkless. Don't try to trick me. I'm not lying, sir, answered Izuku. When he saw the teacher still being skeptical, he said, I can prove it. He then summoned Shiro, shocking the teacher and silencing his classmates. Hello, started Shiro, hopping down onto Izuku's desk. My name is Shirubarafu, but you can call me Shiro, and I am Izuku's quirk. I see, stuttered the teacher. So your quirk lets you summon a small wolf. Then what happened to your body? His quirk does not simply let him summon me, said Shiro, drawing everyone's attention. While I am a physical manifestation, Izuku's power is a mutation, emitter, and a transformation type. He is still learning how to use his powers, so right now most of his abilities are limited. However, even the doctor that took the tests to learn about his power said that it was an incredible quirk. I see, said the teacher nervously. And what is your quirk called, Midoriya? I call it the Six Paths, answered Izuku. The teacher then decided to leave the subject there, and continued the class. Meanwhile, Bakugo was getting angrier and angrier as time passed. That damn Deku, thought Bakugo, letting off small pops in his palms. How dare he act all high and mighty and hide his quirk from me? Thinking he's better than me. I'll show him. Quote. As he went through the day, Izuku noticed that people's attitudes towards him changed completely. People started trying to suck up to him, talk to him, and overall just did a complete 180. Izuku sighed at this, knowing that the only reason people cared for him now was because he had such a unique quirk. After a few days a test arrived for Izuku. And he passed it with flying colors, and graduated middle school just over 8 months early. Flashback ends. And now we come back to Izuku a week after graduating early. He was sitting in his room with Shiro curled up on his desk, conversing on where they could practice Izuku's new powers. We would need somewhere that people don't go, so I can use jutsu and chakra without people noticing, said Izuku. Indeed. While also being a large open space so we can practice your tailed beast transformation and your Susanoo, replied Shiro. What about the mountain? It's far out of the way in. We could probably find a good clearing where I could practice. That could work. Shinobi used to practice in forests to help with their chakra control and improve their skills with tools. It would definitely be a good place to work. Plus we can make a space as we like, and you can create an illusion so no one notices some trees missing, though that would only happen after I teach you how to place AoE genjutsu. Then it's decided, said Izuku, already planning how he would practice with chakra. We start tomorrow. And so Izuku's training began. Izuku spent the first couple weeks working on controlling chakra. Starting with support from Shiru, but eventually gaining enough control to use chakra on his own. The first jutsu that Shiru taught Izuku was the multi-shadow clone jutsu, saying that Izuku could greatly increase his training speed with his clones. Izuku spent nearly a month learning this jutsu alone, working on making the best clones that he could in large numbers. Thanks to Izuku's massive chakra reserves, he was able to handle 500 clones at once. Shiru then spent the next month having each of the Izukus working on something different. He had some working on finer chakra control, some working on new jutsus, some working on the Susanoo, some working on the holding the tailed beast transformation longer, some working on increasing Izuku's chakra reserves, and some working on making a set illusion around the forest to make training easier for Izuku. By the end of the third month of training, Izuku had made massive improvements in his skills. He had learned he had two chakra natures, wind and fire. He had learned a large number of jutsu and learned chakra control at about Chunin level. His transformations had improved immensely as well, with his Susanoo being a full skeleton. When he pushed himself and him being able to hold his tailed beast form for about 20 minutes max. As Izuku entered the fourth month of training, a clone informed him that someone had entered the forest and was making their way towards him. This was when Izuku met his first true friend in a long, long time. Momo was being extremely cautious as she made her way deeper into the forest. As she walked through the dense tree line, she was thinking about why she was here. Momo had been hanging around at the back of her house that day, working on improving the speed in which she created stuff. When she heard a loud noise and a shake in the ground from the mountain behind her, she had looked over wondering what could have caused it, as well as the previous tremors that she had felt over the past few weeks. So she decided to investigate what it was, worried that a villain may have made a base on the mountain and wanting to see if she was right. As she was making her way through a few more bushes, she heard rustling and a voice behind her, asking, "What are you doing here?" Momo was surprised to hear a young voice speaking, and turned to see a boy around her age watching her from a branch on a tree. When she made eye contact, she flinched a little, but then became mesmerized in the hypnotic purple and ringed eyes of the boy. "I asked, what are you doing here?" asked the boy again, pulling Momo out of her silence. Sheepishly, she replied, "I've been feeling tremors for the past couple weeks, so I wanted to see if a villain had made a base on the mountain." "I see," said the boy, hopping down from the branch and landing silently in front of Momo, much to her surprise. How did he not make any noise when landing? She thought to herself. "I apologize for causing you to worry," said the boy. "I am training my quirk up here so I don't disturb others with it. Though with so few people near the mountain, and fewer close enough to feel the tremors, can I assume that you came from the Yaoyorozu residence?" Momo was surprised by the boy's quick and accurate deduction. "Indeed I did. I suppose I should introduce myself. My name is Momo Yaoyorozu. Nice to meet you, Yaoyorozu. My name is Izuku Midoriya." "It's a pleasure to meet you, Midoriya. If you don't mind me asking, why are you training in the mountain and not at your house or at a quirk gym?" "Because my training would not be effective nor efficient in a quirk gym, and I live in an apartment. Plus, part of my quirk can't be used just anywhere, so I need a large space to be able to train it." "I see, and would you mind if I asked what your quirk is?" Quote, "I call it the 6 paths. It is a mix of mutation, emitter, and transformation types." Momo was shocked when Izuku said that. "That's incredible. I've never heard of such a thing before. And what would your quirk be, if you don't mind me asking?" asked Izuku, who was slowly opening up to Momo. "Oh," said Momo embarrassedly, "sorry, my quirk is called creation. I can create anything using my body's lipids, so long as I know the molecular structure of the object." Momo was worried about how Izuku would react when he heard that, but the last thing she expected to hear was awe. "That's incredible," said Izuku, going into fanboy mode. That's such a versatile quirk. You could create medical supplies on the spot, or create needed tools for other pros in an emergency situation. Your quirk has so many uses. Mumble mumble mumble. Momo listened to Izuku as he started going into a mumbling spree, surprised at how many ideas he had for her quirk just from hearing the description of it. Suddenly, she saw a small 10-tailed silver wolf appear on Izuku's shoulder, and became shocked when she saw it whack him on the head as it said, "Izuku, you're mumbling again." Izuku immediately looked up, blushing in embarrassment as he apologized to Momo for his mumbling. "It's no problem, really," said Momo as she thought, "he's kinda cute when he's blushing." She immediately started to blush at that thought. Shiro turned to Momo, noticing the girl staring at him, and said, "Hello, Ms. Yaoyorozu. My name is Shirubarafu, but please call me Shiro." "Oh," said Momo, bowing to Shiro. "It's nice to meet you, Shiro. If you don't mind me asking, what are you? Are you part of Midoriya's quirk?" "Indeed I am," replied Shiro. "I am indeed a part of Izuku's quirk, meant to help him and guide him in learning." "I see, that is certainly unusual," said Momo, thinking about how weird Izuku's quirk already was, and how it kept getting weirder and weirder. "Now a question for you, Ms. Yaoyorozu," said Shiro, drawing Momo out of her thoughts. "You said that your quirk allows you to create anything so long as you know its molecular structure, correct?" "It does," answered Momo, wondering where Shiro was going with this. "Then I would like to ask you to help Izuku with his training," said Shiro, surprising both Momo and Izuku, the latter of which looked at Shiro in alarm. "Are you sure that's a good idea?" thought Izuku to Shiro, concern evident. "You said that we need to be careful with letting people learn about everything that I can do." Quote, "Indeed I did," answered Shiro. "However, her quirk can help her create some ninja tools for you, as well as create targets for you to use for practice." Quote, "I see," thought Izuku, understanding Shiro's intentions, though still hesitant. "But I doubt she would create the tools without knowing what they are being used for, as well as seeing it in action." Quote, "I don't doubt it, so I think you should just bring her to where you are training. And tell her about your quirks, abilities," said Shiro. "But make sure not to reveal too much else, not unless I say you can." Quote, "I will trust your decision," thought Izuku, resigning himself. When he looked at Momo again he noticed her looking at him with a concerned look on her face. "Are you okay?" asked Momo, having watched Izuku simply just stare at Shiro and change his expression a few times. "You were staring at Shiro for a bit." "Sorry about that, I was just talking with Shiro," said Izuku, surprising Momo yet again. "He can talk telepathically with his quirk," thought Momo. "His quirk just keeps getting more unusual." Quote, "And what were you discussing?" she asked, somewhat cautious of Izuku's answer. "We were wondering if you would be willing to create some tools and weapons for me to use for my training," said Izuku. Momo became even more cautious of Izuku, raising her guard. "And why would you need weapons?" Izuku saw that she was tensing and raising his hands in surrender. "I promise that it is for no other reason than for training and sharpening my senses." Seeing Momo still not dropping her guard, he continued talking, saying, "We figured you would be hesitant. So to try to ease your worries we can take you to our training area so you can see what I am doing." Momo was surprised by that, having heard Izuku say just earlier that he came to the mountain for training specifically to not call attention to himself and to not disturb others. "He's willing to let me see how he's training," thought Momo. Finally she came to a decision as she said, "Fine, but you have to tell me all about your quirk." "Thank you, and I was planning on it," Izuku said as he smiled at her. Momo blushed at seeing Izuku's smile. "He has a really nice smile," she thought to herself, causing her to blush even more. Momo began following Izuku through the trees, thinking about the oddity that she was learning was Izuku Midoriya. Finally they made it to a clearing in the trees. And what she saw shocked Momo. Standing in front of her across the clearing was easily over 100 Izukus, with different groups working on different things. "What on earth?" yelped Momo in shock and surprise. She knew she was in for something, but this was probably the last thing she would have expected. Izuku looked back at her and, seeing the look of shock on her face, smiled as he said, "Welcome to the Izuku training camp, featuring me, Izuku." Momo simply looked at Izuku, questions running through her head a mile a minute. Finally she came up with a single question, which was both a sum of a question and a statement. Tell me about your quirk. So Izuku spent the next 20 minutes or so explaining what he could about his quirk, leaving out the obvious details of it being given to him and about his third eye. As Izuku explained about chakra and everything that he could do with it, Momo was becoming more and more interested. I can't believe such an ability exists, she thought, reviewing everything that Izuku was telling her. And that's about it, said Izuku, finished with explaining all of his abilities to Momo. Your quirk is very strange, said Momo. You have a type of energy, but the energy can be used for so many different things. It's amazing. Izuku rubbed the back of his neck sheepishly as he said, yeah, so you can see why I wanted to avoid the attention and find a spot where I wouldn't be disturbed. I do, said Momo, nodding. Though I don't see why you need me to make weapons for you, considering the repertoire of moves you have already. Because all those moves take chakra, and Izuku only has so much available, answered Shiru. I have a sort of backup reserve of chakra that I am collecting in case he needs it. But I want him to be able to use weapons to cover himself when he runs out of chakra. I see, said Momo, understanding the goal of them asking her for weapons. Alright, then I will make your weapons on one condition. And what is that? Asked Izuku, wondering what she wanted in exchange. I want to be able to watch you train, as well as train with you, said Momo, surprising Izuku. I can understand wanting to see my training, he said. But why do you want to train with me? Because your quirk can help me in situations that I wouldn't be able to practice with normally, answered Momo. An example would be having a fight between me and a group of people. Izuku understood what she wanted and saw the use in getting practice in uncommon situations. I see, he said, nodding his head in agreement. Then I welcome you and look forward to training with you. Me too, replied Momo. Well then, said Shiru, drawing the other two's attention. If you are going to be training together, I suggest you start using each other's first names. It will make things easier in the long run as you get to know each other better. Momo and Izuku blushed at that suggestion, and silently agreed with Shiru. Well then, said Izuku. I look forward to training with you, Momo. You too, Izuku, replied Momo. She noticed that she felt funny when she said his first name. Huh, she thought, that's weird. I'll have to look into that later. Quote. And so Momo began training with Izuku and Shiru, creating tools and targets for Izuku to use. Izuku created a new group of clones for Momo to train against in anything that she needed. She trained in fighting against multiple, dealing with people with strength boosts, speed boosts, elemental attacks, and anything else that Izuku was capable of doing. Momo learned that her quirk could be used in much different ways than she originally thought. Izuku had pointed out that since Momo was able to create almost anything, she could probably change the material that she made something out of. This revelation allowed Momo to reach new heights with her quirk. Where she would once use steel for something, she created diamond. This also greatly increased how much she could create with her quirk, as certain materials could have greater durability and take less lipids to create. It also greatly increased the speed in which she could create larger objects. As Momo was improving her quirk, Izuku was learning new ninjutsu and now some different taijutsu. He also had a large group of clones working on increasing his chakra reserves, and leaving some to see. Collect massive amounts of chakra to summon in case he ever needed a quick recharge. The recharge idea was one of Izuku's. He knew about summoning techniques, though he had yet to learn any. He figured that if he could summon other things, why not summon himself? Shiru was impressed with Izuku's idea, telling him that it was actually something that Naruto had done in the past when he first learned Sage Jutsu. And so 2 more months passed, Izuku and Momo making large leaps in their abilities. Momo had started joining Izuku in his physical training, hoping to improve her own strength to add some more power behind her hits when she fought. All the while she and Izuku were growing ever closer, growing to trust each other more and learning more about each other. One day, Izuku asked, "Hey Momo, are you training for Ua?" Momo, who had been working on creating multiple objects at once, suddenly grew tense as she said, Well actually, I am taking the recommendation exam in a few days. As she said this, Momo tensed up even more. Slightly afraid to hear Izuku's response to that. Momo didn't have a lot of friends, as when she hit her growth spurt most women were jealous of her body and most men desired her body, making her uncomfortable. Then when her classmates had learned that she would be taking the UA recommendation exam, she lost the last few friends that she had due to their jealousy. She already knew that Izuku wasn't like other men, only desiring her body, though as the months passed she was wishing he would show a bit more interest, much to her surprise, but was afraid he would leave her just like everyone else when he heard she was a recommendation. However, her fears were unfounded when she heard his response. That's so cool. Izuku yelled with excitement clear on his face. I knew your quirk was amazing, but to be taking the recommendation exam just makes you even cooler. Momo was blushing a bright red seeing Izuku's reaction. I should have expected this, she thought to herself in relief. Izuku would never judge me for that. Quote. Shiru suddenly appeared, surprising Momo, and said, I know you were nervous and afraid when you mentioned you would be taking the recommendation exam. So let me put your worries to ease. I don't think Izuku is even capable of judging someone for anything. He has experienced years of abuse and bullying, and yet holds no anger or hatred for anyone who played a part in it. The only negative emotions I have ever known Izuku to have are sadness, and then jealousy only a couple times. Bullying, thought Momo, alarmed. He was bullied and abused. Quote. Izuku had not told her much about his past, and when asked had seemed to avoid the topic. When Momo turned to Izuku, she noticed him looking worried and slightly afraid. Izuku, started Momo, moving closer to Izuku as she continued talking. You were bullied. Slowly Izuku nodded as he started backing away with his arms up in front of him. Why yeah, I was, he replied. But then started shaking his head rapidly. But it wasn't anything serious, really. It doesn't matter anyway, it's in the past. I've never heard him stutter before, thought Momo, becoming even more worried. Izuku, said Shiru in a serious tone, you were beaten almost every day, and had constant burns and bruises whenever that brat Bakugo was involved. The last thing he told you was to jump off a roof. Momo became extremely worried when she heard what Shiru said. What? Why? Why would people do that to you? Didn't anyone help? After a moment, Izuku sighed and said, nobody would help the quirkless Deku. Quirkless? Asked Momo, confused. And Deku? Like Dekiru? Izuku laughed at that. No, not like Dekiru, though I appreciate the thought. No, it was Deku as in useless. And I was quirkless. At least till about 8 or so months ago, at least on paper. Wait, said Momo, trying to wrap her head around that tidbit of information. You mean you only got your quirk 8 months ago? And you are already this advanced with it? Shiru chuckled at that. Not without my help and a large number of trials between then and now. The first technique I taught Izuku once he knew enough about controlling chakra was the shadow clone jutsu, so he could increase his training speed as well as increase the number of things he could learn. I see, said Momo. I hope I never meet this Bakugo character, as I don't think I would be able to keep myself from beating him into the ground. Momo saw Izuku suddenly get nervous. You may have to learn to suppress that feeling. Momo was confused for a second before realization dawned on her face. He's applying for UA, isn't he? She asked quietly. Izuku nodded, looking worried. Yeah, he is. And since all the teachers and adults were on his side his whole life, he doesn't have a single record that would keep him from getting in. Momo wasn't about to let that stand. Maybe for now, but not for long. Izuku was in front of her in an instant, shaking his head and hands in front of him. No, don't do that. Why, Izuku? He bullied you and told you to kill yourself. Why are you trying to protect him? Asked Momo, confused. Shiru sighed as he said. Because Izuku doesn't want to ruin Bakugo's future, and believes that he can still change. That silenced Momo. He really is too kind-hearted, she thought to herself, blushing slightly. Sighing, she said, fine. I won't report him for your sake. When she saw Izuku about to say something, she raised her hand to silence him. However, I will be informing the school about this if we both get in. I will make sure that he gets better, or he won't be staying long. After a moment of thought, Izuku nodded his head in agreement, resigning himself. There really is no AR. Gooing with her when she makes up her mind, he thought to himself. Just another reason she's so amazing. He started blushing but quickly shook it off. Well, I want to wish you luck with your exam in a few days. He said, though I know you don't really need it. You're amazing both with and without your quirk. Momo started blushing again at that comment, surprised Izuku could say that with a straight face. Thanks, Izuku. I appreciate it. And so they continued training, their conversation ending. A few weeks passed and Momo told Izuku that she passed the exam, making her one of the 4 recommended students of the coming year. That's great, Momo. Congrats, said Izuku happily, causing Momo to get a slight blush on her face. Thanks, Izuku, said Momo. After a moment she said, Hey Izuku. My parents are having a celebratory dinner, and they said I could invite you if I wanted to. Would you like to come? I'd love to, said Izuku excitedly, making Momo smile. Would it be okay if I brought my mom along? I don't see why not, but I should call and ask first just in case, said Momo as she pulled out her phone. After a couple minutes Momo said goodbye and got off the phone. My mom says that they would love to have your mom come along, she said. Great, thanks Momo, replied Izuku happily. Do I need to wear anything specific? No, your casual clothes should be fine, replied Momo. So the dinner is at 6:30 tonight at my house. Just ring the doorbell when you reach the gate. No problem, we'll be there right on time, said Izuku. Asterisk 6:30, Yaoyorozu residence main gate. Izuku was honestly surprised. He knew that the Yaoyorozu family was rich, but he didn't think they were this rich. Izuku, stuttered Inko, shocked at the length of the wall of the residence. We're in the right place, right? I believe so, said Izuku. The Yaoyorozu, are the only people with a home this close to the mountain. I just wasn't expecting it to be so big. If you say so honey, said Inko. Let's just ring the doorbell. Izuku walked up to the side of the gate where he saw a black speaker with a button on it. He pressed the button, and after a moment he heard Momo's voice over the speaker. Izuku, glad to see you're here. Please, come in. As Momo said that the gate opened, allowing Izuku and Inko access to the grounds. They followed the path until they made it to the front door of the mansion at the end of the way. They saw Momo waiting for them, with a wide smile on her face. Izuku, good to see you, said Momo. Good to see you too, Momo, replied Izuku, gaining a smile of his own. Thanks for the dinner invite. It's no problem at all, said Momo. She then turned to Inko and held out her hand. And you must be Mrs. Midoriya. It's so nice to meet you. Inko extended her hand to shake Momo's. As she said, nice to meet you too. Meanwhile Inko was freaking out a bit internally. It's a girl. Izuku didn't tell me that his friend was a girl. Quote, let's HEA. D inside so I can introduce you to my parents, said Momo as she led Izuku and Inko into the mansion. After a couple of minutes they made it to a dining hall, and they saw a couple already sitting down. Ah, you must be our guests, said the woman as she stood up and walked over to the trio. It's certainly nice to get to meet one of our daughter's friends, said the man as he walked next to the woman. Hello, my name is Inko Midoriya, said Inko, bowing to the couple in front of her. And I'm Izuku Midoriya, Momo's friend, said Izuku, bowing as well. It's nice to meet you, we are Eka and Kinji Yaoyorozu, Momo's parents, said the now named Ms. Yaoyorozu. It's so nice to meet you, said Inko. Thank you for inviting us to dinner. It's no problem at all, said Mr. Yaoyorozu. It was only right to invite the person who has helped our daughter improve so much. Momo blushed at that. It really was nice of you to let me invite Izuku and his mom, she said to her mother, gaining a smile in return. No problem, dear, Ms. Yaoyorozu replied. Now, let's sit down and get ready to eat. Once they all sat down a couple servers came out and began serving dinner. As the night went by Izuku and Inko were more and more impressed with how rich the Yaoyorozu were. As the night went by the adults were noticing the way that Momo and Izuku interacted with each other. Momo, said Ms. Yaoyorozu, gaining a small smirk on her face that Inko was sharing. I can't help but notice your familiarity with Midoriya there. Momo blushed at seeing the knowing smirk on her mother's and Inko's faces. Why yeah, we've been using each other's first names since we started training together, replied Momo, forcing her blush down and avoiding making eye contact with Izuku. Oh, said Mr. Yaoyorozu, intrigued by Momo's answer. And why, pray tell, is that? Before Momo or Izuku could respond, Shiru appeared, surprising the Yaoyorozu couple, and said, "It was my idea. I figured that it would create a better bond between them and make things easier in the long run if they were familiar with each other right off the bat." I see, said Mr. Yaoyorozu. Though I do have another question though, who are you? Ah, forgive me, said Shiru. I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Shirubarafu, but please call me Shiru. And I am a sort of physical manifestation of Izuku's quirk. That surprised the Yaoyorozu couple even more. You're part of his quirk. Just what is your quirk, Izuku? From your appearance to this small wolf it seems very odd. Izuku blushed a bit and rubbed the back of his neck nervously. My quirk is indeed rather odd. It's a mix of mutation, emission, and transformation. Izuku then proceeded to explain chakra and what he was capable of with it, and his changes. When he was done he could see the shock on the Yaoyorozu couple's faces. I see, no wonder you were able to help our daughter improve so much, said Ms. Yaoyorozu. Your abilities are quite extravagant, and you can create situations that are difficult to face under normal situations. Momo laughed at hearing that. That's exactly what I said when I heard about his capabilities. Though my favorite part of his quirk is his ability to create illusions. They are extremely realistic and allow you to train with no physical damage to your body. I must thank you again, Midoriya, said Mr. Yaoyorozu, smiling at Izuku. You have helped Momo improve at an exponential rate compared to what she would have been able to do on her own. And I can only assume she has returned the favor. Yeah, Momo has helped improve myself without my quirk by quite a bit, answered Izuku. I honestly wouldn't have been able to get where I am now so quickly without her. That statement caused Momo to blush again and Inko and Ms. Yaoyorozu to smile widely. Oh, this will be fun, they thought at the same time. Meanwhile Izuku was unaware of what was being planned, and Mr. Yaoyorozu just sighed seeing the smirk on his wife's face. I almost feel bad for you, Izuku. You're just as dense as Naruto, thought Shiru to himself, thinking back to when Kuruma was with Naruto. The rest of the night went by rather quietly. Momo and Izuku continued to talk about training and what they think UA will be like. Inko and Ms. Yaoyorozu were talking with planning how to get Izuku and Momo together, and Mr. Yaoyorozu was Tea by himself and watching the two mothers plotting together. The next 2 months also went by in a similar manner during training. Izuku stopped learning new jutsus and worked on improving the ones he already had, as well as increasing his transformation times and his chakra supply. Momo was still unable to create more than 2 simple objects at once, but had still significantly increased her speed. By the time the entrance exam came around, Izuku had improved his capabilities by a massive margin. Izuku knew the Shadow Clone Jutsu, the Amaterasu, all versions of the Rasengan that Naruto was able to use. Some fire-style jutsu up to Chunin level for most and Jonin level for a few, and most wind-style jutsu at a Jonin level. He also increased his tailed beast form from 3 minutes to about 15 if he pushed himself. His 6 paths mode not sure what else to call it to just over an hour, and his Susanoo from just the ribcage to the humanoid form and from about 10 minutes to 45 minutes. Finally, he had increased the number of clones he could make from 500 to around 800. And so February came along and Izuku was at the gate of UA, ready to take the entrance exam. He knew UA was big, but just seeing the size of the school had Izuku in awe. Move it, Deku, yelled an angry voice from behind him. Izuku turned to see Bakugo coming up behind him, glaring all the while. Or you can go around, Bakugo, said Izuku. Bakugo flinched at hearing Izuku call him Bakugo instead of Kachan. What the hell happened to him? Thought Bakugo as he tried to shoulder shove Izuku out of the way. When Izuku didn't budge, Bakugo scowled at him then moved to go around him. Well, that went as well as it could have, thought Izuku with a sigh as he started walking as well. Indeed, replied Shiru mentally. But don't focus on him, focus on your surroundings and on the test. Quote. Right, thought Izuku. He then tripped on a brick that was pulled up from the path. Oh come on. Quote. Izuku quickly prepared himself to jump and right himself, but before he could he suddenly started floating. However, the momentum he had started to move with made him start spinning in the air. Sorry, said a voice. Izuku looked as he was spinning to see a girl with auburn hair and eyes looking at him apologetically while waving her arms around. She quickly grabbed him to stop his spinning, then touched her hands together as she said, "Release." Quote. Izuku immediately felt his weight return and landed on his feet again. Again, I'm really sorry about that, said the girl. I didn't know you were going to right yourself on your own. It's fine, really, said Izuku, smiling gently at the girl, making her blush lightly at his bright smile, though Izuku saw her flinch when she saw his eyes. Thanks for trying to help. I really appreciate the thought. It's okay, really, she replied, getting over her shock and smiling back at Izuku brightly. I just figured it was bad luck to trip before the exam. Yeah, they really should take better care of the path, said Izuku as he stomped on the brick, forcing it back into the ground and surprising the girl. Why yeah, they really should, she replied, still surprised by the sheer strength of Izuku's stomp. Anyway, we should get to the test room. See you later. She then turned around and ran ahead to the school, leaving Izuku to his thoughts. She's nice, thought Izuku to himself. And kinda cute. He lightly blushed at that thought as he jogged to the school. Meanwhile Shiru was smirking to himself as he thought, it seems you might have some competition, Momo. Quote. The first part of the test was the written part, which Izuku finished within the first hour, and spent another 20 minutes double, triple, and quadruple checking his work. Needless to say the proctor was surprised when Izuku walked up to him and handed him his test. After another hour and 40 minutes the proctor called for pencils down and collected the exams. After a 30-minute break everyone moved to a new room with a large screen at the front. As Izuku made his way to his seat he saw that he was right next to Bakugo. Great, he thought as he sighed internally. It must be organized by school. Quote. Bakugo gained a scowl when he saw Izuku making his way towards him. He pointedly ignored Izuku as he sat down. After another few minutes a man with blonde hair spiked up like a cockatoo's and an odd-looking speaker around his neck. It's the voice hero, Present Mike, whispered Izuku excitedly. He started to mumble before Bakugo told him to shut up. Can I get a yeah? Yelled Present Mike loudly, making a number of people cover their ears. He was met with silence as no one wanted to respond. Man, tough crowd, said Present Mike. He then proceeded to explain how the practical part of the exam would work. There would be 3 robots worth a different point amount of 1, 2, or 3. A boy with blue hair shot up and asked about the 4th robot and asked if it was a mistake on the school's part. The boy quickly sat back down after Present Mike explained that the 4th robot was worth 0 points and was more an obstacle to avoid more than anything. Izuku flipped the card in front of him when Present Mike said they contained the test center they would be in. He saw that he had a B on his, and Bakugo's had an A. After Present Mike was done talking everyone made the way outside to buses waiting to take them to their test zones. Once Izuku was there he began stretching as he got ready for the exam. When he looked around to see who was in his test zone he noticed the girl from the gate and saw that she was looking nervous. I should go say hi to her and try to calm her down, he thought as he began making his way over to her. Suddenly he felt a chakra signature moving towards him, and turned to see the blue-haired boy right behind him, arm outstretched to try and grab his shoulder. Surprised by Izuku suddenly turning, the boy put his arm down as he said, "Are you trying to distract that girl? She is clearly focusing and you would only cause a problem. Are you here to interfere with everyone? If so then you should leave now." Izuku heard some of the other test takers start whispering around him, making jokes about him and whispering insults. Sighing, Izuku was about to respond to the boy when he suddenly heard Present Mike yell, "Start." He turned around and sprinted forward through the now open gates, leaving the rest of the group behind. "What are you all waiting for?" yelled Present Mike over the speakers. "The test has already begun. There are no countdowns in real life. That boy gets it. The rest of the kids pulled themselves together and quickly made their way into the fake city in front of them. When they made it a bit of a ways in, they all stopped in shock. Scattered around them were robots in different states of destruction. Some were charred, some were ripped apart, and some looked like they were hit by a concentrated whirlwind. Izuku was quickly making his way into the center of the fake city as he prepared some chakra to use the shadow clone jutsu. When he reached the center, he created 40 clones and sent them away to explore the city and find as many robots as possible. Now then, thought Izuku. Let the test begin. Quote, observation room. Meanwhile, a group of teachers were sitting in an observation room, watching a group of screens showing different students taking on the robots. We have quite the group this year, said a small white animal. Indeed, and they are making quite the showing too, sigh. A woman with raven black hair and wearing a rather exposing outfit. The ones to look out for are those who are observant, a screen showing a boy with multiple arms on a roof looking around O's with situational skills, a floating set of clothes moving around a robot and pressing a button on its back, shutting it down, and those with pure combat ability, a certain ash blonde blowing a group of 3 pointers with a sinister smile on his face, said a skeleton man with blonde hair and blue eyes with black sclera, and you know who that is. Suddenly, the animal creature noticed so. Mething and brought 3 separate screens up to the main set. Well, that's interesting, said the creature, drawing the attention of the others in the room. What is, sir? Asked a man who looked like a walking block of cement. Look at these screens, replied the creature. The screens each showed Izuku breaking robots in different sections of the test zone. One screen showed him hitting one with It looked like a ball of concentrated wind, one with him spitting a ball of fire, and another being ripped apart with his bare hands. That boy has quite the range of abilities, said the woman. Does he have different quirks? Maybe an elemental one. That's not it, though that is intriguing, said the white animal. No, what is most interesting to me is the time stamps on these clips. When the teachers looked closer at the time stamps, they saw what the animal was talking about. There's barely a few seconds of difference between these clips. But those spots are on different sides of the test zone, exclaimed the cement man. Does he have a speed or teleportation quirk? Asked the skeleton man. He was also oddly drawn to the boy, feeling a sense of familiarity from him. Why do I feel that I've met that kid before? He thought to himself. Let's go back a bit to see what the camera's caught, said the animal as he went through the camera footage. Ah, there we go, he said as he pulled up a clip of the boy in the center of the area. The teachers watched as the boy put his hands in a sort of 4-fingered cross as puffs of smoke appeared around him. The teachers were shocked to say. 40 copies of the boy standing where the smoke had appeared. Well, it seems he has a sort of cloning ability, like me, said a man with a black face, peg legs and a large overcoat. Who is this kid, and what's his quirk? Asked the woman, intrigued by the boy. A tired-looking man in a yellow sleeping bag moved to a table and went through the papers until he found the one he was looking for. His name is Izuku Midoriya, said the man, drawing the attention of everyone else in the room. And his quirk is called the 6 paths, and it's a mix of mutation, emission, and transformation according to his papers. What? Yelled the group in surprise, having never heard of such a quirk before. Meanwhile, the skeleton man had a shocked and worried face. That's the boy who went into a coma after saving the blonde from the sludge villain. No wonder I felt like I had met him before. But he told me he was quirkless, and he looked nothing like that before. Thought the man in alarm. Where did he get all this power? Did he encounter him? Quote, the weird part is that he seems to have only unlocked his quirk about 9 to 10 months ago, and it apparently put him in a coma for 5 weeks as it made physical changes to his body that you see now, continued the tired-looking man, becoming intrigued by the boy and all his abilities listed. Wait, you said that his quirk is part transformation, said the cement man. Does that mean he's not even going at full power right now? The skeleton man, otherwise known as Toshinori Yagi, or All Might, began watching the boy extremely closely, having NTED to make him his successor, and now seeing him suddenly appear after a coma with a large range of abilities, and more that he was apparently keeping hidden. I suppose there is an easy way to find out, said the animal man as he pressed a large red button next to him. Test Zone B. Izuku broke another three-pointer with a Rasengan, ripping it apart. I think that makes about 67 points for me, not including the clones. He thought to himself. I hope they count all the points from my clones, however it is that they tell who breaks the robots. Quote. As he began to look for other robots to destroy, he helped some people who he saw in trouble. Suddenly he felt the ground start shaking and buildings start crumbling. What's going on? Thought Izuku in alarm, putting up his guard. I don't know, but be careful, replied Shiru. Suddenly Izuku saw people running away from the center of the test zone, screaming all the while. What are they running from? Thought Izuku as he made his way towards all the people running away. When he got there and looked to the right, he saw what everyone was running from. That's the zero-pointer, yelled Izuku internally in alarm. Looming over him was a massive version of the image that Present Mike showed the test takers during the briefing. It was quickly moving forward and smashing buildings along the way. That's definitely an obstacle, thought Izuku. I should check to see if anyone needs help. Quote. Izuku made his way around the test area with his clones, helping anyone he came across along the way. As he did this, the robot continued to rampage around, breaking everything in its path. Alright, thought Izuku, that should be just about everyone. The back is clear as well and most of the sides are clear. Let's see if we can get any more points before the test ends. Quote. Ow. Izuku stopped in his tracks and turned to look at the base of the robot where he heard the voice. There he was, the girl from the gate, stuck under a pile of rubble as the robot was closing in on her. It's that girl, thought Izuku, surprised to see her there. Suddenly, he saw the robot move its hand and started throwing it down towards the girl. Shit, it's gonna crush her, thought Izuku in alarm as he started running. He quickly learned that even with chakra enhancements he wouldn't make it in time. Damn it, Shiru, I need tailed beast mode. I won't make it in time otherwise. Quote. Understood, but be careful, replied Shiru, as he began merging his chakra with Izuku's. You still don't have fine enough control over your movements at that size. I will help all I can, but you will still have to watch yourself. Quote. Understood, replied Izuku, as he began using Shiru's chakra to go into his tailed beast mode. The other test takers were shocked as they saw a massive see-through, silver, 10-tailed wolf appear around Izuku as he rose off the ground and picked up speed. The girl was more focused on the robot closing in and about to crush her. As the hand moved closer, she closed her eyes, preparing to be crushed under the massive hand. When she didn't feel herself getting crushed, she opened her eyes, only to see a massive silver wolf paw gripping the robot's hand. Are you alright? She heard a voice ask. When she turned her head to see a large wolf head staring back at her with the boy from the gate floating in the head of it. What the hell? She thought in alarm. Are you alright? Are you hurt? Izuku asked her again. She quickly shook off her shock and nodded her head as she said, I think I twisted my ankle when the rubble fell on me. Izuku nodded, the large wolf head following the movement. He then moved one of his tails and had it wrap around the rubble and pull it off of her. He then had another tail pick her and move her over to the crowd of kids a ways behind him. They were surprised to see the girl get placed in front of them by the tail. You all may want to brace yourself, said a voice from off to the side. When everyone turned to look, they were shocked to see another of the boy and the wolf standing with them. My original wants to take out that robot for good, and the shockwave will be extremely powerful, so again. You may want to brace yourself. Those who heard immediately braced themselves, waiting and watching the boy and the wolf to see what he would do next. This thing is dangerous, thought Izuku. I need to remove it from the equation. Quote. Launch it in the air and blast it with a tiny Biju bomb, said Shiru, surprising Izuku. But that's so unnecessary, said Izuku, confused. Why do I need to go overboard like that? Quote. You were looked down upon for your entire life, replied Shiru. I think it's only right to show the world what you can do now. Quote. If you say so, thought Izuku. He then took both his forearms and gripped the zero-pointer, throwing it high into the air. The crowd watched this and wondered what Izuku was doing when they saw a dark purple ball form in the mouth of the wolf, absorbing some red and blue orbs into itself. Once it was about person size, they heard the boy yell, Biju bomb, as the ball launched into the air right towards the zero-pointer. When the ball made contact with the zero-pointer, a massive explosion came to existence, completely erasing the robot and leaving nothing behind. The sound shattered most of the wind. OWS in the test zone, and a massive shockwave was sent towards the ground, throwing everyone who didn't brace themselves skidding. The group was quickly surrounded by 3 tails from the wolf, keeping the all in place and helping to protect them from most of the shockwave. When the shockwave ended, the group saw that nothing was left of the zero-pointer, having been obliterated in its entirety. The group began to whisper among themselves, shocked at the power of the boy and the wolf. What is he? How much power does he have? Was he holding back this whole time? They all suddenly heard Present Mike announce the end of the test, and saw the silver wolf start disappearing, leaving only Izuku in its place. They then suddenly saw the Izuku next to them disappear in a puff of smoke, leaving nothing where it once stood. The girl was speechless, seeing the boy who tripped at the gate wielding such massive amounts of power. Just who is he? She thought to herself. Coming through, said a woman's voice. If anyone needs healing, then let me know. It's Recovery Girl, said Izuku excitedly as he made his way to the group. She's one of the best healers in Japan, and the reason UA can be as reckless as they are. Oh, my, said Recovery Girl, seeing the girl on the ground. Do you need healing, dear? The girl nodded as she said, I hurt my ankle. Recovery Girl looked at the girl when Denly she made a kissy face and stretched her lips to the girl's ankle. The group saw a green glow around her ankle, and saw the bruising disappear. There you go, dearie, said Recovery Girl as she moved on to see if anyone else was in need of help. Meanwhile, observation room. The teachers who were observing were in complete shock at Izuku's display of power. What the hell was that? At a man who looked like he had a piece of machinery on his head. What kind of power was that? He completely obliterated the zero-pointer with ease. And did you see how he formed the blast that he made? Asked the woman, looking both shocked and slightly lustfully at Izuku. It looked like it was charging up, and he stopped when it was around the size of a person. What would happen if he spent more time powering it up? That thought made a number of the teachers shudder. They didn't want to even think about how powerful that blast would be at full power. Meanwhile, All Might was looking at Izuku with narrowed eyes. He has so much power. But he said he was quirkless. Gaining that range of abilities in such a short amount of time. There's only one man I know who could do that, he thought to himself. Though how did his physical body change like that? His natural looks are completely different. I have to watch this boy carefully. Quote, All Might thought back to the day he first met Izuku and how he felt after he saw Izuku save Bakugo. And I told him he couldn't be a hero. If he did end up going to him for power, then it's most likely my fault, he thought sadly, feeling like Izuku could have made a great successor if he had gotten to him before the coma. 1 week later. It had been a week since the entrance exam, and Izuku was starting to get anxious. After the test he had met up with Momo and told her about the test. When Izuku's clones had returned, he added up his points and counted a total of 195. He thought that he may have gone overboard with the clone number, but was glad that the clones had chosen to leave a lot of the robots for other test takers. Izuku was sitting in his room taking notes on the Biju bomb, as it was his first-hand experience with it when he heard a lot of loud noises from the other side of his door. Izuku, yelled his mom, opening the door and proceeding to fall on the ground with her arm outstretched. It's here. The letter is here. Izuku saw a letter with the letters UA on it and quickly grabbed it, and his mom closed his door, wanting to let him see the letter first. Izuku quickly opened the letter, and a small circular hologram device dropped out of it. It turned on when it hit his desk and he saw All Might pop out of it, yelling, I am here. Now Izuku was still a fan of All Might, but after his encounter with he had gone from massive fanboy to a mid to lower range fan. So where he would have once freaked out seeing him, now he was just surprised that All Might was on a recording for UA. Young Izuku Midoriya, good to see you again, said All Might, making Izuku smile a tad. Glad that coma didn't cause any harm to you. Now then, your results. You aced the written exam, being only one of 2 to get full points on it. And for the practical, you got a total of 195 villains points, already putting you in first place this year. But wait, there's more. A hero school can't judge solely on villain combat but also rescue. So there are rescue points. And for you, young Midoriya, you got a total of 100 rescue points. Your clones were always helping people, and you decided to take out the 0 point. Tear after it almost crushed a girl under it. So you have a final total of 295 points, making you the new record holder for points over my own 200 score. Congratulations. This is your Hero Academia. Izuku was surprised to hear about rescue points, and even more surprised to hear that he surpassed All Might's own record-holding score. However, he saw the video change from All Might to a small white animal that Izuku couldn't tell if it was a bear, a dog, or something else, but recognized as the principal of UA, Nezu. "Hello, young Izuku," began Nezu, drawing Izuku out of his own thoughts. I'd like to congratulate you on a job well done with the exam. If possible, I would like to have a meeting with you before school starts, so if possible please come to the school this coming Saturday. I will also be inviting 2 other people to this meeting. I look forward to seeing you. The recording cut off after that, leaving Izuku in wonder as he was thinking about reasons why Nezu would want to see him. It's likely because of your wide array of abilities, thought Shiru to Izuku. Remember I told you about the man called All for One who could take and give quirks. Nezu knows about him and All Might's secret. And with him and All Might there he likely wants to see if you have any connection to him. Quote, I see, thought Izuku in understanding, having seen through Hagoromo's memory. What All for One had done and was capable of. Then I suppose it would be a chance to let them know that he is still alive, right? Quote, it would indeed, but I suggest that you make sure to point out that you have no connection to him. If they are bringing you in for questioning, I believe one of the other 2 people will be All Might and the other will likely be his friend in the police with the lie detector quirk. This will make your claims more believable, though I still say we should withhold what your powers truly are until a later date. Quote, understood. I will do my best. Quote, and so Izuku put the device back in the envelope and went to sleep, thinking about the meeting he would be having on Saturday. Izuku was making his way to UA, thinking about the coming conversation he was headed towards. He and Shiru had spent a fair part of the week discussing how they would go about talking about Izuku's powers without revealing too much. They determined that he may have to reveal that he is holding back and show his third eye. To which Shiru said that if it came to that he would be completely focusing on keeping its powers under control. When he made it to the entrance he saw a man who looked like a block of cement standing next to the gate. Izuku immediately recognized him as the cement hero, Smintos. Ah, you're here, said Smintos, seeing Izuku walking up to him. I have your school ID here. This will let you through the gates and give you access to other facilities on campus. We figured we would give it to you now since you would be coming here anyway. As Smintos said this he held out a lanyard with an ID at the end. Izuku took it with a quick thanks as Smintos led him into the school and to Nezu's office. When they arrived Smintos said goodbye to Izuku then left, leaving Izuku in front of Nezu's office. After a short pause, Izuku knocked on the door and heard a voice tell him to come in. When Izuku opened the door he saw 3 people. He saw Nezu, All Might in his skinny form, and a man in a detective uniform. Looks like you were right, Shiru. This is about my powers, thought Izuku internally to Shiru. Indeed, which means we are prepared, replied Shiru. The first chance you get, summon me out so I can help if needed. Quote, understood, thought Izuku. Ah, welcome young Izuku, said Nezu with a cheerful tone. I'm glad you were able to make it. Please, take a seat. Izuku took the only open seat in the room, sitting facing the 3 men. Now then, said Nezu. I would like to ask you some questions if you wouldn't mind. Of course not, Nezu, said Izuku. If possible though, could I bring someone else out for this? That question surprised the 3 men, wondering who Izuku wanted to invite while All Might tensed up, ready to jump into action if the need arose. And who is this person that you wish to invite? Asked the detective cautiously. My quirk, replied Izuku, surprising the detective and shocking All Might. I see, said Nezu, nodding his head. If you would we would actually prefer to have your quirk here. Izuku nodded and after a few seconds the 3 men saw a small silver wolf with 10 tails appear on Izuku's head, surprising them. It looks like a smaller version of what he turned into during the test. Thought the detective. Hello, Principal Nezu, Detective Tsukauchi Naomasa, and All Might, otherwise known as Toshinori Yagi. As Shiru named off each of the other people in the room, they each tensed up in turn, not expecting it to speak, let alone know each of them by name. When he named All Might with his real name, the man prepared himself to buff up immediately, growing more and more suspicious. I am Shirubarafu, but please call me Shiru. Shiru continued, unfazed by the clearly growing tension in the room. And I would like to say that you can drop the act. We know you invited us here to question us about All for One. You even invited Detective Naomasa, who has a lie detector quirk. That was the last straw for All Might, as he buffed up and stared at Shiru angrily. Before he could act, however, Nezu held up a paw and stopped the man. Naomasa, seeing Nezu stopping All Might from attacking, decided to activate his quirk, seeing no reason not to at this point. I see, said Nezu, then why would you come here, knowing about our suspicions? Because neither I nor Shiru have any connection to that man. And Shiru views him as a plague on Japan, replied Izuku. Nezu and All Might looked over at Naomasa, and were surprised to see him with a look of shock on his own face. Letting them know that Izuku had told the truth. You have no connection to him? Asked All Might, now completely confused about what he should be feeling. But then how do you even know about him? We not only know about him. We also know about One for All and that you are the 8th successor to that power, that you fought All for One now close to 6 years ago, and that you are looking for a new successor, said Shiru. Naomasa was completely lost at this point, not sure what to think anymore as everything that Shiru had said was true. How do you know all that? He asked with pure shock and interest on his face. That is something that I will keep to myself, said Shiru, making All Might raise his guard again, now knowing that Izuku and Shiru weren't going to tell them everything. But I will let you know that Izuku only learned about all of this recently, and because I had him learn it. This drew a large portion of All Might's scrutiny off Izuku and onto Shiru, now more worried foe. Izuku, seeing that Izuku's quirk knew so many secrets and told Izuku all of them. All Might, said Izuku, drawing the man's attention. I have one main thing to say to you. And that is that you are a bit of a hypocrite. That statement caught the other 3 men completely off guard, not expecting Izuku to call All Might of all people a hypocrite. You started out just like me, continued Izuku, making All Might realize where he was going with this. And yet you told a quirkless 14-year-old boy that he couldn't be a hero without a quirk. That caught Nezu and Naomasa off guard. They had been told that All Might had met Izuku before, but they didn't know that he had told Izuku that. And that is something that I wholeheartedly regret, said All Might, surprising Izuku. If you hadn't fallen into that coma after saving young Bakugo, I would have offered you my power, though it would seem you already found a different power. Nor would I have accepted your power, then or now, said Izuku, surprising All Might. I wanted to prove myself, and having you reject my dream just added you to the rest of the world. It made no real difference. However, the power I have now will help me become a better hero. For the sake of others. That is why I was chosen for it after all. That statement caught the attention of the other 3 men. You mean you still received your quirks from someone? Said All Might in alarm, worrying that there may be a new All for One in the making. Izuku laughed at that, making All Might look at him with a questioning look. You could say that, said Izuku mysteriously. I will say that my powers have nothing to do with quirks but are something entirely different. And it wasn't by any living man. While All Might and Naomasa were surprised by Izuku saying his power wasn't a quirk, Nezu caught on to how Izuku said, living man. He decided to tuck that away to look into at a later date. What do you mean your power isn't a quirk? Asked Naomasa. Quote, Izuku's abilities come from something much older and far more powerful and diverse than quirks, said Shiru, making Naomasa and All Might jump as they forgot he was there. His abilities come from something else called chakra, and they were gifted to him after many years of observation and deliberation. And why were they given to him in the first place, and why to young Izuku? Asked Nezu, fearing the answer. They were given to Izuku because he has a heart more pure and devoted to helping others than any other in this world, past or present. For the years he was observed he was never known to get angry or hate. And the closest he got was when he learned about All Might's power. As for the why, I will say this. Death had foretold a great evil rising in these coming years, I know not when. That statement floored the three men. And when Nezu and All Might looked over at Naomasa to see if what Shiryu said about death was true, he nodded his head in the affirmative, with fear clear on his face. I see, said Nezu. Cheerful tone gone, replaced by a heavy one. So you have met death itself, and he foretold of a great evil rising. Any idea what that could be? I do not, answered Shiryu, disappointment clear on Nezu's face. But since death said that it would likely require the power that was given to Izuku, I can say that it will be far greater than All for One. Understood, said Nezu. Deciding on how to handle this information. We will do everything on our part to find out more about this coming threat and prevent it. Is there anything else we should know about? There are two things, said Izuku. One we agreed you should know, and one I want to inform you all of. The one I wanted to inform you of is that a portion of my abilities is sealed, as I cannot control it enough for me to use it safely alone. You sealed part of your power? Asked All Might in surprise, while also fearing what Izuku could do with the unsealed powers. And why did you seal it away? It is not to weaken myself, said Izuku. Making All Might go from fearful to confused. It is to prevent the risk of someone who could destroy the world with ease from escaping a seal she has been trapped in for thousands of years. What? Yelled All Might in surprise. What do you mean a person who is sealed? Why would you have power over that seal in the first place? The powers that I was given are from the person who created the seal, replied Izuku. I received the means to break the seal, so to prevent it opening on accident Shiryu sealed it away. I will not use it unless I need the extra boost in chakra, and if I do Shiryu will be focused on preventing the seal breaking. I see, said Nezu, worried over the supposed person sealed away but deciding to leave that for another day. And Hat is the thing that you thought we should know. All for One is still alive, said Shiryu. The mood in the room instantly darkened when he said that, and Izuku could feel the killing intent and malice coming from All Might. That is a serious problem indeed, said Nezu. How do you know this? One of my abilities is to sense the presence of other people, said Izuku. Shiryu had seen All for One before, and knows his presence. Shiryu shared his abilities with me, as well as the presence of those he has seen before. While I cannot pinpoint where exactly he is, I can say that his presence remains, living on. Then it seems my work is far from done, said All Might, frustration clear on his face. I must find a successor quickly, and prepare them for the task ahead, though I hope they never have to face him. I have an idea to help with that, said Shiryu. Allow Izuku to help you find your successor. That surprised All Might, as he asked, and why should I allow young Midoriya to help me choose my successor? I wouldn't help you choose, per se, said Izuku. Like presence I can sense hatred or malice, meaning that I can help you find someone who is truly devoted to the right cause and won't cause any problems. However, that is all I would do, though I could also serve as a training partner for whoever you do choose. All Might understood what Izuku was saying, though he was surprised to hear that Izuku could sense malice or hatred. I see, he said, smiling at Izuku. Then I would indeed like your help in that regard, though the final decision will still be mine. Understood, said Izuku, smiling back at All Might. He then stood up and bowed as he said, then I suppose we are done here. I am glad that I could ease your concerns about me, and I look forward to studying here. And we look forward to having you, said Nezu. Izuku walked out of the room, and All Might and Naomasa were about to follow when they suddenly heard Shiryu speak again. One last thing, said Shiryu, surprising the three men as they forgot he was there. This is something that I am doing on my own, and without Izuku's consent, though you would have heard it from another of your students soon. This statement brought concern to the three men's faces, wondering what it was Shiryu wanted to tell them. Fear not, said Shiryu. This is a simple concern about another of your future students. And it is more concerning Izuku than anything else. I see, said All Might, visibly relaxing but still worried since it was something concerning Izuku. What about one of our students? It's about the boy named Katsuki Bakugo, said Shiryu. He is a very volatile brat, and has an extremely overblown ego. I see, said Nezu. But why does that make it a concern? Because he is a bully, and been a tormentor to Izuku since they were 4, replied Shiro, surprising the 3 men. And he has gone much further than should ever be allowed. What do you mean? Asked All Might, confused and worried. His records are all clean. Saying he was a model student. Why was none of this recorded? And what did he do? The school he and Izuku attended is biased, and since Izuku was quirkless and Bakugo had a powerful quirk, they let Bakugo abuse Izuku and never reported anything he did, and the other students didn't care in the least either. That statement surprised and disgusted the 3 men. Never did they think an entire school would be so biased and cruel. And what exactly did he do to young Izuku? Asked Nezu, growing ever more worried about what Shiro was about to say. He baited Izuku into killing himself. On the same day that he first met All Might, said Shiro. Silence was all that was heard from the 3 men, shocked to hear that one of their future students had baited another to suicide. And why did Izuku not report any of this? Asked All Might, while thinking about what could have happened to Izuku if he was any different that day. All Might had told him his dream was impossible the same day he had been told to kill himself. He was even more regretful now of having said that. Because Izuku is far too pure-hearted to ever report that brat, said Shiro as he sighed to himself. Izuku still believes that Bakugo can turn things around and become a good-hearted person, and even on that day he was still thinking that they could be friends. That statement read the 3 men even more than before. They were all surprised to hear that despite everything Bakugo had put Izuku through, he still believed in the boy. I missed such a great opportunity to have the perfect successor, thought All Might sadly, while also proud that Izuku was so kind-hearted and forgiving to others. I see, said Nezu. Then we will do all in our power to make sure that Izuku's hope comes to fruition. Though I must ask, who was the other student you said would tell us this? One of your recommended students, Momo Yaoyorozu. She learned about it a while ago and forced Izuku to accept that she would be telling you about Bakugo, said Shiro. It's good to know that young Midoriya has such a good friend, said All Might, happy that Izuku had at least one such person for him. That is all I wanted to tell you, said Shiro. Now I must get back to Izuku. I bid you all farewell. After Shiro said that, he turned into a puff of smoke and disappeared, leaving the men to their own thoughts. With Izuku had been walking away when he remembered that he left Shiro summoned in the room. But before he could cancel the summoning, he felt Shiro return on his own. Sorry about leaving you there, thought Izuku apologetically. It's fine, thought Shiro. I used the chance to tell them about Bakugo. Quote, you what? Yelled Izuku internally. Why did you do that? Quote, because I wanted them to know as soon as possible, and Momo was going to tell them anyway. Quote, Izuku sighed as he knew he couldn't do anything about it now. Well, no use worrying now. Let's just go home, thought Izuku. Indeed, and prepare for your first day, replied Shiro. 9 days later, first day of school. Do you have everything? Asked Inko to Izuku. Yes mom, I have everything. Izuku replied, putting on his shoes at the same time. Are you sure? You didn't just pack action figures, right? Asked Inko, worried. Mom, I'm fine. I have everything, said Izuku, standing and looking at his mom in embarrassment. Right, sorry, I'm just worried about you, you know, said Inko. I know mom, replied Izuku with a smile on his face. Now I gotta go, I don't want to be late. Izuku kissed his mom goodbye and left his apartment, making his way to the train station as he pulled out his phone to text Momo. Silver Wolf, hey, you ready for our first day? Kriti, yeah, I'm all set. You, Silver Wolf, just left my house and headed to the train station. I'll see you in class. Kriti, you bet. See you in class. Izuku smiled as he put his phone away. He and Momo had gotten their class numbers the day before, and they were pleased to find they were both in class 1A. He quickly made his way to the train station and rode it to Ua. As he made his way into the school, he felt Mo's chakra signature and followed it through the halls until he appeared in front of a massive door with the number 1A on it. That's a rather large door, thought Izuku in surprise. It must be in case there is anyone whose quirks make them larger than usual, replied Shiro. As Izuku was preparing to open the door, he felt the chakra signatures of Bakugo and the blue-haired boy from the Ent. Rant's exam on the other side of the door. He sighed to himself as he opened the door. Get your feet off the desk, yelled the blue-haired boy to Bakugo. Izuku noticed he was swinging his arms around in a robotic manner. Huh, replied Bakugo, giving the other teen an angry look. What did you say to me, Four Eyes? Four Eyes, replied the blue-haired boy, reeling in shock. Let's start over, my name is Tenya Iida. I'm from Sumei Private Academy. Sumei huh, replied Bakugo, maintaining his ever-constant angry look. So you must think you're better than me. I'm gonna have fun tearing you a new one. You dare threaten me, your own classmate. Are you sure you're in the right place? Yelled Iida in shock. Izuku sighed to himself. You really never change, do you, Bakugo? Quote, Iida. And Bakugo noticed Izuku when he sighed. It's him, said Iida, drawing the attention of the rest of the class. The boy who got first place. Bakugo was just scowling at Izuku angrily. He was furious that he got second place on the exam. And by such a large margin. I'm gonna show that damn nerd who's really on top. His quirk is nothing compared to mine. Thought Bakugo as he scoffed and looked away. Good morning, yelled Iida as he robotically speed-walked over to Izuku. My name is Tenya Iida. I'm from Sumei. Yeah, I know, said Izuku, interrupting Iida before he got into his speech again. I heard you talking to Bakugo over there. I'm Izuku Midoriya, it's nice to meet you. Midoriya, started Iida, I must apologize for what I said at the exam. I was stressed and jumped to conclusions too quickly. It's clear that you were only concerned for others, and were taking the exam more serious than any of us. You saw through the hidden feature of the exam. Glad to have cleared that misunderstanding up, said Izuku. Smiling at Iida who returned it in kind. Though I didn't see through the exam. I just went to go help someone in trouble and take out the problem. That just makes it all the more impressive, said Iida. Izuku, you made it, said Momo as she came up to the two boys in the doorway. I look forward to studying with you. Me too, said Izuku, smiling. Okay, forward to studying with all of our class. Hey, it's you, the guy who saved me, said a voice behind Izuku. When he turned around, he saw the girl he saved from the zero-pointer. He quickly moved back when he noticed how close she was to him, blushing and rubbing the back of his head. Momo took notice of this, and got an aching feeling in her chest. What was that? She thought to herself. I got a weird feeling when I see them together. I'll have to look into that later. Quote, hey, it's good to see you made it in as well. Izuku said the girl after getting his blush under control. I can't believe we're going to be classmates. I'm Ochako Uraraka. It's nice to officially meet you, said the now named Uraraka. Nice to officially meet you too, replied Izuku. I'm Izuku Midoriya, but I think we should get to our seats. Else we made a bad impression on our teacher in the sleeping bag there. As Izuku said this he pointed behind Uraraka, and the other three looked to see what looked like a yellow caterpillar laying on the ground. I'm surprised you noticed me, said the caterpillar as it got up. Looks like you know to stay aware of your surroundings. The group quickly found their seats were and sat down as the caterpillar man got out of his sleeping bag and walked to the front of the room. It took you all 8 seconds to quiet down, that's not going to work, said the man. Now then, I'm Shota Aizawa. And I'll be your homeroom teacher for the next year. As the man, who Izuku immediately recognized as the pro-hero Eraserhead, said that he reached into his sleeping bag and pulled out a PE uniform. Now then, he continued, putting the uniform on the podium in front of him. Put on your PE uniforms and meet me outside in 10 minutes. 10 minutes later. You all got out here in time, good, said Aizawa. Now then, we are going to be doing a quirk apprehension test. A test, yelled the class, minus Izuku, Momo, and a dual-haired boy, in shock. But what about orientation? Asked Uraraka. We're going to miss it. In real life you don't have time for things like an orientation, replied Aizawa. He then turned to Izuku as he said, now then, Midoriya, you got first in the entrance exam. Even beating All Might's score. What was the furthest you could throw a ball in middle school? I think it was about 87 meters, replied Izuku, surprising Aizawa. I see, replied Aizawa as he threw Izuku a ball. Try throwing this one, and you can use your quirk. Got it, said Izuku. Izuku walked up to the circle and was getting ready to throw when he thought of something. Turning to Aizawa he asked, "Excuse me, Aizawa-sensei. Would you mind if I threw a few times?" "Why?" asked Aizawa, looking to get more chances. "Not at all," replied Izuku. "I have multiple abilities that would help me throw this ball, and I would like to try all of them to see how each of them plays." Izuku's statement impressed Aizawa, who wasn't expecting such a logical and reasonable answer. Meanwhile the rest of the class was confused by what Izuku had said. From their point of view he had a mutation quirk, so what abilities could he be talking about? "I see," said Aizawa, satisfied with Izuku's answer. "Very well, you can throw a few different times." "Thank you, sir," said Izuku, smiling. He then turned back to face the field in front of him, running chakra through his body to augment himself. "Let's start with a simple muscle augmentation," thought Izuku as he reeled his arm back. He then threw the ball when he had augmented himself to his limit, launching the ball into the air. After a few seconds a device in Aizawa's hand beeped. He turned it around to show the class the score on it, showing it at 1057 meters. This number shocked the rest of the class minus Momo and the dual-haired boy. And infuriated Bakugo. "Whoa, over 1,000 meters. That's crazy," said a blonde boy with a black lightning bolt on the side. "This looks so fun," said a girl who was completely pink. Izuku immediately felt anger sprout from Aizawa, and sighed to himself. Well, they just pissed him off, he thought. Indeed they did, and knowing how Eraserhead teaches, he just signed their own expulsion papers, thought back Shiro. "It looks fun, you said," said Aizawa, drawing the class's attention back to him. "Very well then, whoever gets last in these tests is expelled." "What?" yelled the class as shock. "But you can't do that. It's not fair," said Uraraka. Before Aizawa could continue, Izuku cut him off, saying, "And natural disasters are. Or nuclear events, or kidnappings. Or anything else that heroes have to face. This world isn't fair, and every man is not created equal, no matter what people tell themselves. The job of a pro-hero is to take on the dangers and the unfairness of the world so the public doesn't have to face it. We deal with the trash of society to protect that very society, and villains aren't going to play fair. You have to be ready to face the darkness of the world, because if you aren't then this profession isn't for you." Izuku finished his speech, leaving a stunned class and a very surprised Aizawa, having not expected such a thing to come from a student. "Exactly," said Aizawa. "What Midoriya said is correct. This world is not fair, and if you aren't prepared to face that then you don't belong here." The class got a lot more serious after that, though some were put off by what Izuku and Aizawa had said. "Now then, Midoriya," said Aizawa. "Continue your throws. How many more ways are you going to throw?" "I think just 3 more times," said Izuku. "That should test all my base abilities at my current limits." "All right, take your next throw," replied Aizawa, tossing Izuku another ball. Izuku turned back to the field and activated his Susanoo this time. The class was shocked to see a massive green man build itself around Izuku, starting with the bones and stopping at a human shape. "What the?" yelled a black-haired boy with odd elbows. "I thought he had a mutation-type quirk. Where did this thing come from?" "Izuku has a very special quirk," said Momo, drawing the class attention. "In fact he is the only person in the world to have his classification. Izuku's quirk is a mix of mutation, emitter, and transformation." "What?" yelled the class in shock. "That's incredible," yelled Iida, swinging his arm in a chopping motion. "That's never been seen before. But I'm confused, this is different from what he did at the entrance exam, though the see-through figure is the same." "Izuku has 3 different transformations," said Momo, surprising the class even more. "Each one offers different things, but all boost his abilities by a large margin." Bakugo was getting angrier and angrier the more he heard. Infuriated that the nerd had such a quirk. Izuku had the Susanoo grab the ball and reel its arm back. It then threw the ball, launching it through the air. After about half a minute, the device in Aizawa's hand beeped again. He turned the device to show the class a score of 5,369 meters. "This guy is incredible," muttered the pink girl, with the rest of the class nodding along. Izuku quickly dispelled the Susanoo and landed back on the ground. Aizawa tossed him another ball, but decided to test if he could shut off Izuku's quirk, seeing it was partly a mutation. He was shocked by what he discovered. Why does he feel like a quirkless person? Thought Aizawa in alarm. I should at least feel the quirk gene, even if I can't cut it off, but there's nothing there. I need to bring this up to Nezu. Quote. Izuku meanwhile was not paying attention to Aizawa, so he didn't notice his eyes glow red and hair start to rise. Let's try 6 paths mode next, thought Izuku. The C-Lass was again shocked when they saw what looked like a cloak grow out of Izuku's clothes, while changing his attire to show his chest. They saw a weird pattern show up on the cloak as 8 black balls appeared behind him. They then saw one fly to Izuku's hand, and were even more shocked when they saw a hole appear through Izuku's hand as the ball turned into a staff. What the? Yelled the blonde bee. Oi, as he and the rest of the class turned to Momo. What kind of transformation is that? And what are those flying behind him? I won't tell you anything else about Izuku's abilities, said Momo, gah. Eyeing disappointed looks from the other students. If you want to know more you'll have to ask him yourself. Izuku turned the staff back into a ball and had to absorb the ball in his other hand into itself. The class was then shocked as they saw Izuku start to float up into the air. He can fly too, they all thought. Let's fly up a fair bit so I can get the most reach with the Truth Seeker orb, thought Izuku. When he felt he was high enough, he had the orb fly through the air away from himself. After a minute he felt he had reached his limit for how far he could send it. He then had it fly in a circle at a fast pace and then release the ball inside it, launching it through the air. He quickly landed and released 6 paths mode, returning back to his normal appearance. Shortly after Aizawa's device beeped again, and he showed the class a score of 6,826 meters. This guy is insane. What a cheat quirk, said a small boy with purple balls for hair. Aizawa heard this and turned to the boy, glaring at him as he said. You think he's lucky to have this quirk? Then let me tell you something. He has only had access to his quirk for about 9 months. This statement shocked the class, and made the dual-haired boy look at Izuku in interest. For 9 months. But that's not possible, said Iida. His quirk is part mutation, so he should have had it since birth. It seems none of you have stopped to think about the implications of what that much power can do, said Aizawa. Iida and Uraraka, you saw what he was capable of at the entrance exam. What do you think would have happened? If he had access to that amount of power as an infant? Iida and Uraraka paled at the thought of the destruction Izuku could cause. To let you all know, Midoriya's quirk was not accessible to him until 9 months about. A month before which the activation of it put him in a coma for 5 weeks to let his body adapt. That silenced the teens again, shocked that Izuku's own power had put him in a coma. His quirk may give him an immense range of abilities, said Aizawa. But he had to work incredibly hard to get trained it and get it under his control in a fraction of the time you all had with your quirks. Let it be known that of all of you here, I think he is the most dedicated to this job, and is willing to push himself to be ready for it. Izuku chuckled and rubbed the back of his neck, embarrassed. I have only had this quirk for a short period of time, but what it gave me helped me to learn about it faster, as well as a friend. A friend, thought the class. But before they could Aizawa had already tossed Izuku another ball. Just a heads up, said Izuku. You all may want to stand back a fair bit. This next transformation is rather big, even at its smallest size. The class quickly backed away, giving Izuku a large amount of space. Ready to go, Shiru? Asked Izuku internally. Whenever you are. Though we are just throwing a ball, replied Shiru with a chuckle. Izuku, you then started undergoing Biju transformation. The class watched in shock as a massive see-through silver wolf took form around Izuku, raising him up into the air. The wolf let out a howl as it took form. Even the dual-haired boy was shocked by this transformation, not expecting anything like it from Izuku. They saw the wolf stand on its hind legs, looking more humanoid than before in that position. As it reeled back its arm and threw the ball, a small shockwave was released, pushing the other students and Aizawa back a bit. Izuku quickly released Biju mode, returning to the ground. He turned to see the other students minus the dual-haired boy, who was hiding his shock behind an indifferent face, Momo, Iida, and Uraraka with shock on their faces. Aizawa heard a beep from his device, and grinned when he saw the score on it. He turned the device to show the class, showing them a score of 9,674 meters. This kid is something else, he thought to himself. I was going to test him if he was holding back. But I already know from his speech that he understands what he's going into, as well as his own limits. For once I may actually enjoy teaching someone. Quote, Midoriya, said Aizawa, I want you to just use your base ability for the rest of the tests. From what I saw from your first throw, it should be more than enough. I look forward to seeing what you can do, and I want a full L. East of your abilities before the first heroics class. Yes sir, said Izuku. Suddenly, Izuku heard a loud explosion behind him and heard Bakugo yell, Deku. What the hell was that? Like hell you got a damn quirk this powerful. He turned to see Bakugo running towards him, pure rage on his face. Before he could act however he saw Aizawa catch Bakugo in his scarf. Damn it, said Bakugo. Why can't I use my quirk? And why is your damn scarf so strong? I erased your quirk, said Aizawa. And my scarf is a special capture weapon. Thank you Eraserhead sensei, I appreciate the help, said Izuku. Bowing to Aizawa who was surprised to hear Izuku knew who he was. It's fine, said Aizawa. I was already keeping watch over him to see what he would do. Principal Nezu has already informed me of what you talked about. And I plan on correcting it quickly. I see, said Izuku. Then I leave it to you. Momo was surprised to hear what Aizawa said. Did Izuku already tell the school about what Bakugo did? No, it must have been Shiru. Izuku wouldn't tell on Bakugo himself. Quote, Bakugo quickly walked back to the rest of the class, who were confused by the interaction. Aizawa then continued the tests. Everyone got a chance to show what they could do, though Izuku was almost in the top 5 if not the top. For the 50-meter dash he got second, just behind Iida. In the grip test he got first. Followed closely by Momo and a boy who had 6 arms. For the long jump he got second, behind a girl who looked like a frog. For the side steps he got second again, behind the boy with purple balls for hair. For the toe touches he got first, closely followed by the pink girl, who looked surprised that someone beat her in flexibility. Izuku got first in sit-ups, with his chakra allowing him to push himself past his normal limits. He almost got second in the distance run, with Momo creating an electric scooter and only stopping because it ran out of battery. He was exempted from the ball throw, as he had already done it before. Though he was intrigued by the dual-haired boy who got a distance of 1,568 meters by creating a large pillar of ice that launched the ball, and Uraraka who got an infinity as her score. The class had grouped up around Aizawa, who had a new device in his hand. You all probably know where you stand, but here are the rankings anyways, said Aizawa as the device came to life and projected the ranks. Rankings. First, Izuku Midoriya second, Momo Yaoyorozu third, Shoto Todoroki fourth, Katsuki Bakugo fifth, Tenya Iida sixth, Fumikage Tokiyami seventh, Mezzo Shoji eighth, Mashira Ojiro ninth, Eijiro Kirishima 10th, Mina Ishido 11th, Ochako Uraraka 12th, Koji Koda 13th, Rikido Sato 14th, Suyu Asui 15th, Yuga Aoyama 16th, Honta Siro 17th, Denki Kaminari 18th, Kyoka Jiro 19th, Toru Hagakuri 20th, Minoru Mineta. Rankings. Izuku was very happy with himself for getting first place. Thank you Shiru, thought Izuku. Don't thank me, replied Shiru. Hagoromo and I may have given you your powers. But you are the one who pushed them so far so quickly. But we are nowhere near where we need to be. Quote, right, thought back Izuku. Meanwhile, a certain purple-haired boy, who Izuku now knew was named Minoru Mineta, was on the ground crying. No, I can't get expelled. I haven't even gotten any girls yet, he yelled. The rest of the class backed away from him, while the girls looked at him with disgust. Also I was lying, said Aizawa. No one's getting expelled. What? Yelled the class, minus Izuku, Momo, and the dual-haired boy, who Izuku now knew was named Shoto Todoroki, in shock. Before Aizawa could go on, however, Izuku interrupted again. Aizawa-sensei, he said. You shouldn't lie to them about lying to them. What he said confused the class, and surprised Momo, who thought he actually had been lying. I know your teaching record, continued Izuku. Last year you expelled your entire class. You have no qualms about expelling those you don't think can make it in this field. Aizawa chuckled lightly, not expecting Izuku to know so much about him. It seems you've done your homework about me. Not surprising seeing you knew I was a racerhead. Quote, I was considered quirkless for a majority of my life, said Izuku. It only makes sense that I would train my knowledge to be able to keep up. Aizawa smiled at Izuku, even more impressed and acceptant. Gee, that he had a truly interesting student this year. Good, I look forward to teaching you. He turned to the rest of the class. Go change back into your school uniforms and meet back in the classroom for introductions. 10 minutes later. All right, said Aizawa, standing back behind the podium. Let's do introductions. By seat number say your name, quirk, and something about yourself. After eyeing that he got back into his sleeping bag that he'd pulled out from seemingly nowhere and went to sleep. I guess it's moi turn first, said a sparkly blonde. I am Yuga Aoyama, and my quirk is called Naval Laser. I shoot a laser from my belly button and sparkle, said the now named Aoyama. Next was the pink girl. Hi everyone, she said cheerfully. I'm Mina Ishido, and my quirk is acid. I can secrete acid from my body. I love to dance. Hope to get along with you all. As she sat down, the frog girl stood up. I'm Suyu Asui, but call me Sue. My quirk is frog. I can do anything a frog can. I always speak my mind. Nice to meet you. The next person up was Iida. Greetings. I am named Tenya Iida. My quirk is called engine. I have engines in my calves that let me run faster. My favorite drink is orange juice. I look forward to studying with you all. Iida quickly sat down, letting Uraraka go next. Hi everyone, she said in a bouncy and cheerful mood. I'm Ochako Uraraka, and my quirk is zero gravity. I can remove the gravity from anything that I touch. I love eating mochi. I hope we can all be friends. Next up was another blonde who had a large tail. I am Mashirao Ojiro. My quirk is called tail. It gives me a tail. I am a martial artist. Pleasure meeting you all. The blonde with the black lightning bolt in his hair was next. Yo, I'm Denki Kaminari. My quirk is called electrification. I can emit electricity from my body that I use to attack. I like to think that I'm a cool dude to be around. Nice to meet you all. He sat down as the next person stood up. He had red spiky hair. What's up? I'm Eijiro Kirishima. My quirk is called hardening. I can harden my body like a rock and attack. My favorite hero is Crimson Riot. I look forward to training with you all. Next was a boy who looked like a humanoid rock. I'm Koji Kota, whispered the boy shyly. My quirk is called Anavoice. I can control any animals that are in my range. I don't like bugs. He quickly sat down, and hid his head behind his hands as the next person stood up. I'm Rikido Sato. My quirk is called Sugar Rush. With every 10 grams of sugar I eat I can multiply my strength by 5 times. I love to cook. Looking forward to learning with you all. Next up was the boy with 6 arms and a mask on. I'm Mezzo Shoji, and my quirk is called Dupli Arms. I can recreate certain organs on the ends of my arms, like mouths, eyes, and ears. I don't really have anything specific I like. Looking forward to studying with you. Next was a girl with headphone jacks attached to her ears. Hi, I'm Kyoka Jiro, and my quirk is called Earphone Jack. I have headphone jacks that I can extend to plug into things to hear or to broadcast my heartbeat. I like music. Nice meeting you. When she sat down, the boy with black hair stood up and grinned. Yo, I'm Hanta Siro. My quirk is called tape. I can produce tape from my elbows that are as tough as steel. I like to hang out and just chill. I look forward to getting to know you all. Next up was a boy with a bird head. Greetings, I am Fumikage Tokiyami. My quirk is called Dark Shadow, and I can summon a sentient shadow from inside myself that I use to fight. I love darkness, and revelry in the dark. Closing parenthesis dot. Nice meeting you all. Next up was Todoroki. I'm Shoto Todoroki. My quirk is called half hot, half cold. I don't really have any likes or dislikes. He quickly sat down, giving no more information about himself or his quirk. Next was what looked like a floating uniform. Hi, said a bubbly and cheerful voice. I'm Toru Hagakure. My quirk is called invisibility. And as you can see, it makes me invisible. I love girly stuff and anything about love. Can't wait to learn with you all. Next was Bakugo. I'm Katsuki Bakugo, and my quirk is called explosion. You extras don't need to know anything else. Izuku sighed as Bakugo sat down and he stood up. Hello everyone. I'm Izuku Midoriya, and my quirk is called the Six Paths. It's a mix of mutation, emitter, and transformation and gives me a type of energy I call chakra that has a wide variety of uses. I look forward to learning with you all. Before he could sit down, Mina jumped up and asked, Hey, Midoriya. You said your quirk gave you a friend. What did you mean by that? Oh, said Izuku. That's right, I did say that. I suppose I should introduce you all to him. Izuku quickly summoned Shiru, making the rest of the class besides Momo and Bakugo jump in surprise when a small silver 10-tailed wolf appeared on Izuku's head. Greetings, said Shiru. I am Shirubarafu, but please call me Shiru. I am a sentient life form that Izuku's quirk made. I helped to train him and became his partner and friend. I look forward to seeing what you all can do. Before anything else could be done, Shiru was quickly snatched off Izuku's head as Uraraka grabbed him and hugged him close to himself, saying, so cute. With Mina and Toru hanging around her, squealing along with her. Shiru quickly disappeared, leaving the trio saddened that their cute wolf was gone. Sorry girls, said Izuku. But we have to finish introductions. When everyone was back in their seats, the boy called Mineta jumped on his desk. Sup, I'm Minoru Mineta. My quirk is called Pop Off, which gives me these balls on my head that I can take off and stick to anything except myself. I love girls and plan to have a harem when I go pro. The girls were all giving him death glares as he sat down, which he ignored. The final person up was Momo. Hello, I am Momo Yaoyorozu. My quirk is called creation. I can create anything from my body's lipids so long as I know the atomic structure of said item. I love tea and am happy to help anyone who needs help in class. I look forward to learning with you all. When Momo sat due, WN Aizawa got up as he said, with that done we are done for the day. Grab a syllabus from the podium and get ready for tomorrow. As everyone was packing up and leaving, Izuku went over to Momo and they started walking out. On their way out they were stopped by Iida and Uraraka. Wait up you guys, yelled Uraraka, stopping the duo. Uraraka, Iida, nice to see you again so soon, said Momo. Yeah, you're Momo Yaoyorozu right, and you said your name was Deku, right? Said Uraraka. Deku, said Izuku in shock, Momo gaining a glare. Yeah, said Uraraka, getting a quizzical look on her face. That's what Bakugo called you right? Isn't it a nickname? Izuku sighed. It's an insult actually. It means useless. Well that's unsportsmanlike, said Iida. Oh, I'm sorry, said Uraraka. I thought it was short for Dekiru. Like you can do it. I thought it was a cute nickname so I was going to use it, but if you don't want me to I can stop. Izuku blushed when Uraraka said she thought it was a cute nickname. Embarrassed, he said, why you can keep calling me Deku if you want to. I like how you said it, and having the meaning changed will be nice. Uraraka beamed at him, making Izuku blush more. Meanwhile Momo was feeling a very tight feeling in her chest. Not liking how quickly Uraraka had taken an insult from Bakugo and gotten Izuku to let her call him by it. I really need to figure out what this feeling is, thought Momo. As the group continued to walk. Maybe mother knows what it could be. She's very knowledgeable. Quote. And so the first day of school was over, and Izuku couldn't wait for the next. Thanks for watching.